Chapter 2093, 2093 It's best if you don't head back. 2093 It's best if you don't head back. If not for this black light essence severing formation, the many execution guards present were not confident that they could keep Gu Tongyu. With this formation that isolated heaven and earth essence chi, Gu Tongyu could not activate the sound of his flute with essence chi, and the threat to them was minimized. When one fell into the black light essence severing formation, they could only use their essence spirits and the power of blood chi in their bodies. However, they could not release any dermic arts or divine powers. Be it Gu Tongyu or Chosiluo, their bloodlines and physiques were extremely ordinary. Chosiluo sat on the ground limply without any combat strength left. The only one left was the severely injured Gu Tongyu, whose essence chi had dried up and was not much of a threat. That was the reason why the execution guards present were so relaxed and fearless. "Do it," Commander Xiong said in a deep voice. "Capture the two of them alive and hand them over to Princess Meng Yao." "Hold on." Right then, Commander Lu suddenly stood out and turned to look at Xie Tianfeng, Lin Ming, Zhuo Zhuxian, and Shang Wanqian. "The four of you, head up and capture the two of them." The decision was extremely sudden. Zhuo Zhuxian and Shang Wanqian were instantly alarmed. Xie Tianfeng and Lin Ming were hesitant as well. Commander Lu harumphed coldly. "The two of them have weak physiques and are severely injured. Even if they're grade 8 Earth Immortals, they won't be able to unleash much combat strength. What are you afraid of? You're not willing to grab such a chance to render meritorious services?" Commander Xiong, Commander Li, and the others watched coldly from the sidelines. Although they did not know Commander Lu's intentions, they were not sure if Gu Tongyu had any other trump cards. It was fine to send outsiders to test the waters. Zhuo Zhuxian, Shang Wanqian, and Lin Ming exchanged glances and hesitated. A vicious glint flashed through Xie Tianfeng's eyes as he stood out and patted his chest. "Commander Lu, let me do it." Actually, Xie Tianfeng also knew that there was a certain degree of danger involved in this attack. However, fortune came from danger. If he could make use of this opportunity to gain the favor of the three execution guard commanders, it might bring immense benefits to him and his family clan. Furthermore, Xie Tianfeng had the confidence as well. Although his cultivation realm was only at the level 7 Earth Essence realm, the cultivation techniques of the Xie family specialized in body tempering. Even if he could not defeat them in the black light essence severing formation, he could escape alive. Xie Tianfeng looked askance at Lin Ming and Zhuo Zhuxian before turning to Shang Wanqian and bragging, "Fellow Taoist Shangwan, you saw it too. Those two are as cowardly as rats. How embarrassing." With that said, Xie Tianfeng walked towards Gu Tongyu murderously. Gu Tongyu stood on the spot motionlessly with the fallen soul flute in his hands. Although Xie Tianfeng stood out, he did not underestimate his opponent, nor did he attack rashly. Instead, he stood 10 feet away from Gu Tongyu and walked around the ladder slowly, looking for openings and waiting for an opportunity to strike. Gu Tongyu was still standing on the spot with his head slightly lowered. He looked at the fallen soul flute in his hands with a melancholic expression. Suddenly, after circling a few times, Xie Tianfeng stopped in his tracks and attacked. Blood chi burst forth from his body as he withdrew a saber from his storage bag and charged towards Gu Tongyu. "Kneel!" Xie Tianfeng knew that he had to keep them alive. Therefore, he chose to slash towards Gu Tongyu's knees. As though he did not see Xie Tianfeng charging over, Gu Tongyu was still unmoved. It was only when Xie Tianfeng had already closed in and the saber was about to slash his knees with a gentle breeze that Gu Tongyu suddenly raised his palm. Whoosh! He had fallen soul flute in his hands the entire time. In the process of raising his palm, fallen soul flute made use of the breeze created by Gu Tongyu's slash to let out a strange sound. The many execution guards watching did not feel anything. However, Xie Tianfeng, who was closest to Gu Tongyu, shuddered and his blood chi calmed down instantly. Even his essence spirit trembled slightly and his gaze froze, causing his consciousness to go blank for a moment. In reality, the fallen soul flute was extremely powerful. If Gu Tongyu played the fallen soul flute with heaven and earth essence chi, the sound of the flute could cause one soul to die. The sound of the soul-reaping Zither could draw out one's soul and dissipate it into the world. The soul-reaping Zither and fallen soul flute were once the two most famous utmost treasures of the sound domain in an ancient era. When the two weapons were pushed to their limits, the sound of the Zither and flute could be heard. It could even kill all living beings in a world in a short period of time. Unfortunately, the essence chi in Gu Tongyu's body was almost depleted. He could not use heaven and earth essence chi to play the fallen soul flute. However, he was well-versed in music and was extremely talented. He merely made use of the breeze created by Xie Tianfeng's charge to let out a strange sound through the sound hole of the fallen soul flute. Although the sound did not synthesize heaven and earth essence chi, it still affected Xie Tianfeng when it sounded in his ears. He paused for a moment and his consciousness blurred, recovering quickly. That momentary opening was enough for Gu Tongyu. Although Xie Tianfeng paused for a moment, Gu Tongyu did not. He raised the fallen soul flute in his hands and released the sound of the flute. At the same time, the fallen soul flute happened to be raised in front of Xie Tianfeng's face. Gu Tongyu's arm extended forward gently. Poof! A bloodied hole appeared on Xie Tianfeng's glabella from fallen soul flute. Xie Tianfeng had just snapped out of his stupor when he felt a sharp pain in his consciousness. However, this time round, his consciousness fell into a bottomless abyss and he never woke up again. Thump! Xie Tianfeng fell to the ground with widened eyes, unable to rest in peace. When Su Zimo saw that, he could not help but praise internally. Gu Tongyu's attack was filled with imagination. The entire process was fluid as water with an indescribable elegance. It was a strange feeling. There seemed to be no blood or cruelty in the hands of this person. Instead, there was a hint of beauty. Gu Tongyu did not use much strength to kill Xie Tianfeng. Even so, his body swayed as well, as though he had expended a lot of energy and blood oozed from the corner of his mouth. The wounds on his body ruptured once more. Tongyu, you. Cho Siluo was worried. Gu Tongyu sighed gently. We're going to die here today? He was already at the end of his road and anyone present could kill the two of them. The three of you. Head up. Commander Lu looked at Shang Wanxian, Zhuo Zhuxian, and Lin Ming who were left. Their expressions changed. Xie Tianfeng had just died, and even if Gu Tongyu was already at the end of his rope, the three of them were afraid of Gu Tongyu's strange methods and did not dare to advance rashly. Lin Ming rolled his eyes and pointed to Su Zimo at the side. Commander Lu, let him go. He has just obtained the inheritance of Astral Sect. It's a good opportunity for everyone to witness his capabilities. Commander Lu's expression darkened. Initially, he wanted to hide this matter. He did not expect Lin Ming to reveal it directly. What inheritance of Astral Sect? At the side, Commander Li seemed to have sensed something and turned to ask. Nothing much. Commander Lu changed the topic and said coldly, let's hurry and capture the two of them so that we can head back and report it to Princess Ming Yao. With that said, Commander Lu headed towards Gu Tongyu and Cho Siluo. Suddenly, a palm touched his shoulder and someone whispered into his ear, it's best if you don't head back. Chapter 2094, 2094 Kill. 2094 Kill. That palm was rather rude. That statement came out of nowhere as well. The voice of the person who spoke was even more foreign. Commander Lu frowned. Just as he was about to turn around, a warning flashed through his mind. Not good. Commander Lu's heart skipped a beat. Right as he was about to release his blood chi with all his might and dash out, he felt a sharp pain on his temple. His essence spirit was penetrated instantly as well, and his expression froze. His eyes gradually dimmed, and his entire body fell weakly. Sensing that something was amiss, the other execution guards turned over and saw an incomparably shocking scene. Among the 5 people Commander Lu brought over, an ugly and tall Grade 5 Earth Immortal suddenly walked behind him and said something. Immediately after, the palm of the Grade 5 Earth Immortal on Commander Lu's shoulder shifted horizontally, and tapped his thumb gently on the latter's temple. There was a swoosh. A bloodied hole appeared on Commander Lu's temple. The bloodied hole pierced Commander Lu's head, and his essence spirit was destroyed, killing him on the spot. Everyone present was shocked. Nobody expected an unassuming Grade 5 Earth Immortal with almost no presence to dare attack an execution guard. Furthermore, he was so ruthless that he killed a commander of the execution guards, a Grade 9 Earth Immortal, on the spot without hesitation. Shang Guanxian, Zhuo Zhuxian, and Lin Ming widened their eyes in disbelief and shock. What sort of existence were the execution guards? The execution guards represented the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Even the Sect Master of Astral Sect, many elders and Heaven Immortal experts had to be respectful when they saw the Earth execution guards, let alone them. But now, this drunkard who was sometimes crazy and sometimes silent in their eyes had suddenly attacked. The world was about to turn upside down. The two execution guards beside Commander Lu were the closest. Their pupils constricted and they were slightly stunned, but they reacted quickly. Scoundrel, you must be courting death. The palms of the two execution guards immediately reached for the execution sabers on their waists. However, the two of them were way too close to Su Zimo. Just as the two of them were stunned, Su Zimo attacked once more. Waving his palm in reverse, he slapped an execution guard heavily on the cheek. Crack! The sound of bones cracking echoed and blood splattered everywhere. In the eyes of Shang Guanxian and the other two, space seemed to have stopped at that moment. Right in front of the three of them, the execution guard's cheek changed rapidly and was shattered by Su Zimo's slap. A warm red and white liquid splashed onto their faces. The three of them shuddered and retreated instinctively with frightened expressions. The execution guard's head was crushed by Su Zimo's palm, and his essence spirit was destroyed, dying on the spot. Clang! The other execution guard had just drawn his execution saber halfway, and the sound of a sharp weapon being unsheathed echoed. Su Zimo sidestepped and arrived before the execution guard instantly. He placed a hand on the scabbard and pushed the execution saber back. With his other hand, he closed two fingers and conjured a sword art, tapping the glabella of the execution guard. Poof! The execution guard's glabella was pierced instantly and fresh blood oozed. The person's eyes were widened and his face was dark. He fell stiffly and was already dead. The entire process took less than 3 breaths. An execution guard commander and 2 Grade 8 Earth Immortals were dead. In the Black Light Essence Severing Formation, the methods available to every cultivator were extremely limited. Coupled with the suddenness of the matter, Commander Lu and the other two turned into 3 corpses before they even had the chance to attack. Crazy, crazy. Lin Ming gulped and looked at Su Zimo with shock and fear, muttering repeatedly. Although Commander Lu and the other two were caught off guard in the Black Light Essence Severing Formation, it was way too terrifying to kill 3 execution guards that were 3 to 4 levels above him in succession. Even Zhuo Zhuxian looked at Su Zimo with fear in his eyes. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo, who were surrounded, were shocked as well. Initially, the two of them thought that they would definitely die today. However, they did not expect that a Grade 5 Earth Immortal in the corner would kill 3 execution guards. His decisiveness and ruthlessness were shocking. Both of them exchanged glances and could see the confusion and surprise in the other's eyes. They did not recognize the tall man at all. Neither of them knew why the burly man suddenly attacked the execution guards. However, the two of them knew one thing. The burly man, who was a Grade 5 Earth Immortal, was most likely doomed. Earlier on, the reason why this person could kill 3 people in succession was because he caught them off guard. But now, the remaining 10 execution guards had already reacted and moved, forming an encirclement. Every single execution guard had an extraordinary physique and bloodline. At the very least, they were stronger than the two of them. Coupled with the black gold feather armors they wore, the execution sabers they wielded, and the fact that their cultivation realms far surpassed the burly man, there was almost no chance of this burly man winning against the 10 of them combined. Fellow Taoist, be careful. Gu Tongyu reminded loudly that Commander Xiong's bloodline has been cultivated to the Tsunami Blood Realm. You must not fight him head-on. Damn it! Commander Xiong glared at Su Zimo fiercely and scolded. What an eye-opener today. A grade 5 Earth Immortal actually dared to attack the execution guards. Don't waste your breath on him. Kill him lest he causes trouble. Commander Li frowned and moved, charging towards Su Zimo with the execution saber. At the same time, the other 9 execution guards attacked at the same time. Today, we'll slice him into pieces. Commander Xiong roared with a ferocious expression. Humph! Su Zimo's gaze intensified. Suddenly, he raised his leg and stomped heavily on the ground, causing the ground to quake with a loud bang. Right on the heels of that, Su Zimo made use of the power of stepping on the ground to charge forward. Everywhere he passed, gravel and dust would fly as he plowed out 2 gigantic ravines. It was too fast. 2 execution guards had just moved when they felt the ground tremble. The next moment, Su Zimo's figure had already closed in. Su Zimo's charge released an incomparably ferocious and tragic aura that was suffocating. It was like an ancient era's plow heaven divine bovine that reared its head and howled into the skies with a torrential malevolent aura. Not only did it want to plow the heavens, it wanted to puncture 2 holes in the firmaments. The 2 execution guards felt their scalps tingle. Before they could attack, Su Zimo had already extended his arms. His arms were like 2 sharp horns that soared into the skies. Bang! Bang! Su Zimo's fists struck the chests of the 2 execution guards heavily, and the tremendous force sent them flying instantly. Their figures were still in midair when the black gold feather armor on their bodies cracked. The chests of the 2 execution guards caved in. The power released by Su Zimo's collision not only shattered the black gold feather armor, but also the bones of the 2 execution guards. Chapter 2095, 2095 Thunderous Methods. 2095 Thunderous Methods. Su Zimo sent 2 execution guards flying and swept his hands, snatching the execution sabers from their hands. After snatching the sabers, Su Zimo did not stop at all and threw with his left hand. An execution saber transformed into a cold beam of light and tore through the air, arriving before the 2 execution guards that were sent flying. The saber pierced the heads of the 2 execution guards and nailed their essence spirits in midair. As he threw the saber with his left hand, Su Zimo sidestepped and arrived before another execution guard. He raised the other execution saber and slashed down at that person. Although Su Zimo did not circulate his blood chi, the thunder bones in his green lotus true body vibrated continuously and emanated blinding lightning. The slash was resplendent and electric arcs coiled with a shocking aura. Ah! The execution guard roared and channeled his blood chi. He raised his execution saber as well and slashed towards Su Zimo's saber. Clang! The 2 sabers collided and an ear-piercing sound of metal clashing echoed. The next moment, cracks appeared on the surface of the 2 execution sabers. The armor on the execution guard's arms exploded instantly as well. The flesh on both arms tore and burst into a blood mist. The tremendous power of Su Zimo's slash not only destroyed the 2 execution sabers, but also crippled the arms of the execution guard. The destructive power of thunder surged into his spirit platform. The execution guard maintained his stance of gripping his saber with both hands motionlessly. However, the light in his eyes gradually dimmed. When the 2 execution sabers exploded and shards scattered, the execution guard fell limply. The battle had just begun, and in the blink of an eye, 2 of the 10 execution guards were rammed to death by Su Zimo, and another one was shocked to death. It was fine if Su Zimo did not attack, but the moment he did, he used thunderous methods and left no one alive. Zuozhu Xian, Shangguan Xian, and Lin Ming were dumbfounded. Even Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo were shocked. If the reason why the Grade 5 Earth Immortal killed Commander Liu and the other 2 earlier on was because he caught them off guard, his attack this time round had already revealed his terrifying methods. There was no trick to killing the 3 execution guards. It was a head-on collision and even suppression with absolute strength. A Grade 5 Earth Immortal can release such burst power? Gu Tongyu was shocked and said in disbelief. Qiu Siluo nodded as well. Indeed, he's very powerful. However, The reason why he can release such terrifying combat strength is also because of this black light essence severing formation. This person's physique is extremely strong. He can maximize his advantage in this formation. Gu Tongyu said, even so, it's truly terrifying to be able to cross 3 cultivation realms and kill 3 grade 8 Earth Immortals under the encirclement of 10 execution guards. As the two of them spoke, both parties on the battlefield exchanged blows once more. Although Su Zimo killed 3 execution guards, the remaining 7 had already closed in. 7 execution sabers slashed down, forming an impenetrable saber net that sealed Su Zimo's escape path. It's over. Gu Tongyu shook his head. That person is surrounded and has nowhere to hide. No matter how strong his body is, he won't be able to take on the 7 execution guards head-on. Qiu Siluo looked nervous as well. It was as though Su Zimo would be sliced into pieces the next moment. Roar! Suddenly, Su Zimo took a deep breath and shouted. Instantly, the world went silent. To be precise, this could no longer be considered as a shout. Instead, it was a deafening roar that shook the world and contained endless might. Against that howl, cultivators would feel an uncontrollable fear in the depths of their hearts. Lin Ming and Zhuo Xian, who were watching from afar, were shocked. Their ears buzzed and their vision blurred. Their legs went limp and they could barely stand. Shang Wanxian's body swayed slightly and her face turned pale. Even Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo, who were proficient in music and the Tao of sound domains, were shocked. That sound domain's secret skill was way too terrifying. It was clear that the roar was not targeted at them. Even so, the two of them could sense the terrifying power contained in the roar. The roar resembled a dragon's howl, a phoenix's cry, a thunderous rumble, and thousands of elephants trumpeting. That did not sound like a human at all. After Su Zimo cultivated the divine elephant breathing technique, he fused the myriad elephant roar into the secret skill of the Azure Dragon Roar. The power of the Azure Dragon Roar had already transformed to an extremely terrifying degree. If not for the black light essence severing formation, once heaven and earth essence chi was infused into this skill, the 7 execution guards in the surroundings would have died on the spot if their cultivation realms and physiques were not strong enough when the Azure Dragon Roar was released. Right now, even without the help of heaven and earth essence chi, the Azure Dragon Roar still produced an extremely terrifying impact. Against the roar, the 7 execution guards shuddered and froze in midair. 4 of them widened their eyes and their ears were pierced by the sound, spurting with 2 streams of blood. Among the 4 of them, 2 of their eyeballs exploded on the spot. The crowd was in chaos as the 4 of them let out tragic cries and staggered in retreat. The remaining 3 were grade 9 Earth Immortals, Commander Li and Commander Xiong included. The 3 of them had different physiques, blood chi, and cultivation realms. At the Tsunami Blood Realm, Commander Xiong's blood chi was the strongest and he received the least impact and damage. As for Commander Li and the remaining grade 9 Earth Immortal, although they were not injured, they had pained expressions and their features were squeezed together. They lost their hearing for a moment and their consciousnesses went blank. The encirclement of the sabers dissipated instantly. Su Zimo's expression was cold. He did not choose to chase after the 4 injured execution guards. Instead, he strode forward and slapped Commander Li on the head with his left hand. His right finger pierced the glabella of the other grade 9 Earth Immortal. Their essence spirits were destroyed on the spot. Su Zimo's analysis of the situation and battlefield was unparalleled. He had fought his way through Tianhuang mainland and was always surrounded. As such, he could determine the other party's weaknesses and openings right away. During such rare opportunities, he would get rid of the people who posed the greatest threat to him. In other words, his targets were the grade 9 Earth Immortals present. Unfortunately, Commander Xiong's blood chi was strong, and he was not affected much. He retreated right away and escaped. Otherwise, Su Zimo would have been able to kill Commander Xiong instantly. The tides had turned entirely. Earlier on, Su Zimo was surrounded by 7 people, and the situation was dangerous. In the blink of an eye, he killed 2 more people and had the upper hand. There were only 5 execution guards left on the battlefield. 4 of them were injured, and the only one who retained his peak combat strength was Commander Xiong, a Grade 9 Earth Immortal. Right then, Su Zimo's body swayed, and he spat out a mouthful of blood with a pale expression. His Dao heart was damaged and had not recovered. Now that a huge battle had broken out, it affected his internal injuries. Chapter 2096, 2096 Massacre. 2096 Massacre. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo could not help but feel emotional when they saw Su Zimo release his might and break out of his predicament, killing a few people consecutively with his sound domain secret skill. If this continued, the outcome of this battle would be unpredictable. However, right then, Su Zimo's body swayed and he spat out a mouthful of blood, as though something was amiss. Both of them frowned. Initially, Commander Xiong was stunned by Su Zimo's methods and was momentarily bewildered. He did not dare to advance and even wanted to retreat. However, he was puzzled when he saw Su Zimo vomiting blood. Could it be that this Grade 5 Earth Immortal was severely injured after clashing head-on with the other execution guards in the battle earlier on? That was indeed a possibility. It was truly unusual for a Grade 5 Earth Immortal to release such terrifying strength and methods. There was a high chance that he had used some secret skill to stimulate his potential. Secret skills that could stimulate one's potential would also be accompanied by extremely strong sequelae. Although this person managed to take down a few execution guards head-on, he was severely injured as well. Just as Commander Xiong was pondering, Lin Ming on the other side suddenly reacted and shouted, "Commander Xiong, this person just failed his breakthrough earlier on and his injuries have yet to recover." That's right. Zhuozhu Xian stood out as well. In addition, this person's Dao heart is damaged. If he attacks consecutively, it will definitely aggravate his Dao heart injuries. Shangguan Xian glared at Zhuozhu Xian and Lin Ming coldly. Although she did not dare to stand out and help Su Zimo, she would not do the despicable act of kicking someone when they were down. When he heard that, Commander Xiong's eyes lit up and he calmed down. "Ha ha ha ha." Commander Xiong burst into laughter. "Thief, you sure are bold to dare to kill so many execution guards of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Commander Xiong, we can't give him a chance to catch his breath. Let's kill him together." Because they were isolated from Heaven and Earth Essence Chi, the injuries of the remaining 4 execution guards could not heal yet. However, the 4 of them could determine Su Zimo's location with the help of their spirit consciousnesses. "This is bad." Gu Tongyu shook his head. "This fellow Taoist's Dao heart is damaged and he's injured. I'm afraid." Qiu Siluo sighed gently as well. "The 2 of us are severely injured and are trapped in this black light essence severing formation, so we can't help much. Sigh. Kill." Wielding the execution saber, Commander Xiong's blood chi surged as he strode towards Su Zimo. The other 4 execution guards dispersed as well and advanced at the same time, charging towards Su Zimo. Die. Before the 4 of them arrived, a domineering spirit consciousness fluctuation spread out from their glabellas. The 4 execution guards had just sent voice transmissions with their spirit consciousnesses and had already decided to use their spirit consciousness secret skills to join forces to kill Su Zimo's essence spirit. The 4 of them did not want to give Su Zimo any chance to retaliate. This is bad. Gu Tongyu's heart skipped a beat when he sensed the intense spirit consciousness fluctuation on the battlefield. He had been worried about this the entire time. The difference in their cultivation realms was too great. If the execution guards released their essence spirit secret skills, this Grade 5 Earth Immortal would have no chance of winning. 4 essence spirit secret skills were released and arrived instantly. Su Zimo's expression was unchanged as he raised his head and looked at the 4 of them indifferently. Suddenly, a palm-sized scale floated out from his glabella. It was silent but emitted a shuddering aura. Essence Spirit Secret Skill, Reverse Scale, Fufu, the light of a firefly. An execution guard could not help but sneer when he saw Su Zimo activate his Essence Spirit Secret Skill as well. In his opinion, there was a difference of 3 cultivation realms between them. In a fight between essence spirits, He could kill Su Zimo's essence spirit with ease, while his essence spirit could escape unscathed. However, that person stopped before he could finish. His smile froze on his face as well with a dull gaze. The other 3 execution guards paused as well. The 4 essence spirit secret skills of the execution guards collided against the reverse scale. There was not much noise in a fight between essence spirit secret skills. However, cracks appeared in the essence spirits of the 4 execution guards. Before long, the essence spirits of the 4 execution guards were destroyed on the spot. Su Zimo was in seclusion in the cave abode of Astral Sect for a long time. Although his Tao heart was damaged because of Ji Yaoshua's passing and his failed breakthrough, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra that he cultivated became more complete and perfected. This cultivation technique was extremely terrifying when it came to cultivating the essence spirit. Although Su Zimo had not broken through to the Grade 6 Earth Immortal realm, his essence spirit realm had already reached the level of a Grade 8 Earth Immortal. In other words, the essence spirit realms of both parties were not different. As for Su Zimo's essence spirit, it was formed from the Green Lotus essence spirit and Dragon Phoenix essence spirit's synthesis of illumination and netherglow. With the help of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, it was even more condensed and pure. Now, he had even released the reverse scale secret skill. The 4 execution guards could not defend against it at all. Anyone who touched the reverse scale of a dragon would die. Even Commander Xiong might not be able to escape unscathed if his essence spirit secret skill clashed against the reverse scale head-on, let alone the 4 Grade 8 Earth Immortal execution guards. Of course, the reverse scale could not withstand the impact of the 4 essence spirit secret skills and dissipated into the void, vanishing. On the other side, Commander Xiong had a terrible expression. There were more than 10 Earth execution guards and 3 commanders. They were considered top-tier experts among Earth Immortals. To think that they were almost completely annihilated by a single Grade 5 Earth Immortal. Right now, he was the only one left. If he removed the Black Light Essence Severing Formation and recovered Heaven and Earth Essence Chi, he was absolutely confident that he could kill this Grade 5 Earth Immortal with the difference in their cultivation realms. However, once the formation was dispelled, it was equivalent to Gu Tongyu at the side recovering his combat strength as well. He could not defend against the sound of the fallen soul flute at all. Commander Xiong had already closed in and had no way out. He could only fight with all his might. Kill! Commander Xiong roared and channeled his blood chi to its limits. Wielding the execution saber with both hands, he slashed down viciously at Su Zimo's head. Earlier on, he sensed that Su Zimo's essence spirit realm was very high. Therefore, he did not dare to use his essence spirit secret skill. Instead, he chose to fight Su Zimo in melee combat with his powerful blood chi. However, although he did not use his essence spirit secret skill, Su Zimo had no intention of giving up. A golden Sanskrit talisman condensed in Su Zimo's consciousness and flew towards Commander Xiong. The Gautama Dharmic Seal. With the help of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, the might of the Gautama Dharmic Seal was not to be underestimated. If Commander Xiong ignored the essence spirit secret skill, although he could kill Su Zimo, he would not be able to escape death either. Helpless, Commander Xiong could only release his essence spirit secret skill to fight against the Gautama Dharmic Seal head-on. The 2 essence spirit secret skills collided. Su Zimo and Commander Xiong shuddered. In this essence spirit secret skill fight, Commander Xiong had the slight advantage. He was delighted and was about to continue swinging his execution saber to kill Su Zimo. Another beam of light shot out from Su Zimo's glabella with an extremely sharp edge, piercing towards his glabella. The Green Lotus sword burst forth. Chapter 2097, 2097 Annihilation. 2097 Annihilation. After that palm strike, Commander Xiong felt his vision blur and Su Zimo's figure vanished. The bystanders had a clearer view of things. In the eyes of Gu Tongyu and the others, under the suppression of Su Zimo's palm, he suddenly lowered his body and slithered forward like an agile anaconda, circling behind Commander Xiong. The next moment, The anaconda coiled around Commander Xiong and raised its head to take a deep breath, as though it wanted to devour the sun and the moon. The anaconda's body expanded continuously. Under their shocked gazes, Commander Xiong's burly body transformed rapidly and a jarring crackling sound came from his body. Commander Xiong's bones were minced by the anaconda and his body exploded into blood mists. Swoosh! An essence spirit flew out from the top of his head. Before it could escape, it was whipped into pieces by the anaconda's tail and destroyed on the spot. On the other side, Lin Ming was shocked. Suddenly, he shook his head and rubbed his eyes with both hands. He seemed to have hallucinated earlier on. The drunkard seemed to have vanished, and in his place was an anaconda. By the time he focused his gaze once more, Commander Xiong had already turned into a pile of grisly red meat and was sprawled on the ground, dead. The ugly drunkard stood at the side expressionlessly. Everything that happened earlier on merely seemed like a hallucination of his. Actually, he was not the only one. Zhuo Zhuxian and Shang Wanxian had the same hallucination. Gu Tongyu and Xiu Siluo exchanged glances. Both could see the shock in the other's eyes. Both of them could see things clearer and sharper. Throughout history, many cultivation techniques and offensive skills were imitated from ferocious beasts and demon beasts. It was easy to imitate them, but it was difficult to capture their actual spirits. Someone like Su Zimo, who possessed both form and spirit and could even cause one's vision to go haywire such that it was difficult to differentiate between reality and illusion, was completely unheard of. Although the battle sounded slow upon narration, the process was extremely short. It had been less than 20 breaths since Su Zimo attacked and killed Commander Lu's group of 3 before going on to mince Commander Xiong to death. Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming had always been on the side of the execution guards. Before the two of them snapped out of their stupor from the shock of how Su Zimo dared to attack the execution guards, all the execution guards present were annihilated without exception. The battle ended before the two of them even had the chance to attack. How was that possible? Who was this Imoling? Not only did he attack the execution guards, he even massacred them mercilessly. He was only a grade 5 Earth Immortal. How could he release such terrifying power? Could it be the legacy cultivation technique of Astral Sect? That did not make sense. Right from the beginning, they had not seen him use any methods of Astral Sect. Furthermore, he could not release them in the black light essence severing formation. Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming's minds were in chaos. Right then, Su Zimo turned around and looked at the two of them. Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming met with Su Zimo's gaze, and their expressions changed. They felt a chill run down their spines, and their hearts seemed to leap into their throats. The two of them were not fools and realized something. Notwithstanding the fact that they had been targeting Su Zimo repeatedly previously, it would be difficult for the two of them to leave alive after witnessing today's scene. Chapter 2098, 2098 Silence. 2098 Silence. Not good. This Imo Ling wants to silence me. The same thought crossed the minds of Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming. Right then, Su Zimo had already walked slowly towards the two of them expressionlessly. However, both of them were still scared out of their wits. At that moment, the wisest choice for the two of them was to turn and escape. However, for some unknown reason, against Su Zimo's gaze, their legs no longer obeyed them. In their eyes, the execution guards was a supreme existence that could not be offended. But now, the drunkard before him had killed 13 execution guards. In their eyes, Su Zimo was no longer the crazy and ugly drunkard. Instead, he was more like a cold-blooded and ruthless fiend who killed without batting an eyelid. Both of them were scared out of their wits and shivered. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo had already arrived before Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming, watching the two of them with a calm expression. The two of them did not dare to meet Su Zimo's gaze and averted it. "You guys wanted to see my capabilities earlier on." Su Zimo spoke slowly and said in a seemingly casual manner, "I hope I didn't disappoint the two of you." Initially, Commander Lu and the others wanted to make use of Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo to kill Zhuo Zhuxian and the others. Zhuo Zhuxian, Lin Ming and Xie Tianfeng pushed Su Zimo out. Indeed, Su Zimo stood out. He started a massacre in an incomparably shocking manner and killed all 13 execution guards. When Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming heard Su Zimo's question, they did not know how to reply. They could only grin dryly with horrified expressions. Fellow Taoist Mo Ling. Zhuo Zhuxian took a deep breath and tried his best to compose himself. I've offended you in the past. Fellow Taoist, please be magnanimous and give me a chance on account of our relationship as fellow sect mates. Why yes. Lin Ming nodded hurriedly and smiled apologetically. I've also made a mistake in the past. Fellow Taoist Mo Ling, please be magnanimous, heh? Su Zimo was unmoved and merely looked at the two of them calmly. Beside them, Shang Guanqian sighed gently. She was extremely fearful as well. However, she could not bring herself to wag her tail and beg for mercy like Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming. Zhuo Zhuxian continued, Fellow Taoist Mo Ling, don't worry. I can swear that I'll pretend that I've never seen you before and never tell a second person about what happened today. If I break that vow, I'll die a terrible death. He thought to himself that even if he did not tell a second person, he could tell it to a third or a fourth person. That way, it would not be considered as a violation of the vow. Lin Ming was enlightened and hurriedly followed suit, making a vow. Are you done speaking? Su Zimo asked indifferently. Lin Ming nodded instinctively. You can die then. With a backhand slap, Su Zimo slapped the side of Lin Ming's face. Crack, crack, crack. Lin Ming's head spun a few times around his neck before coming to a slow stop. His entire neck was completely shattered. His eyes were widened. Su Zimo's seemingly casual palm strike had already shattered the essence spirit in his consciousness. When Zhuo Zhuxian saw that, he could not help but gulp and clench his fists instinctively. Immediately after, a vicious glint flashed through his eyes. Suddenly, he channeled his blood qi and retreated, circulating his essence spirit to condense a greater divine power. Frost barrier. Zhuo Zhuxian pointed at Su Zimo. An almost transparent frost barrier was formed around Su Zimo, trapping him within. Shang Guanqian's heart skipped a beat when she saw that. It was only at that moment that she suddenly realized that the black light essence severing formation had lost its effect, and she could clearly sense the surrounding heaven and earth essence qi. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo were not surprised. Although it was convenient to set up such array flags and they were fast, there was a disadvantage. The 49 array flags were equivalent to dermic treasures. If anything happened to the owner of the flags, they would become ownerless and the black light essence severing formation would lose its effect. If one were to carve formation patterns on the ground or in the void bit by bit, although it was extremely troublesome to set up and took a long time, it could be maintained for a long time. Therefore, the moment Commander Xiong died, the black light essence severing formation lost its effect and heaven and earth essence qi recovered. To Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo, this was naturally a good thing for them. However, it was not good for Mo Ling who had just gone on a massacre. The reason why Mo Ling could release such a terrifying killing power was mainly because of the black light essence severing formation. If heaven and earth essence qi was recovered, this person's cultivation realm would only be at grade 5 earth immortal after all. The difference between him and Zhuo Zhuxian and the others was too great. Therefore, although Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo sensed the change, they did not remind him because they were worried that Zhuo Zhuxian and the others would sense it and they would put Mo Ling in danger instead. In reality, Lin Ming and Shang Guanqian truly did not notice this change. However, Zhuo Zhuxian realized it. He was forced into a corner by Su Zimo and finally overcame the fear in his heart to counterattack. That was the reason for the scene earlier on. Mo Ling, I don't want to be your enemy. Zhuo Zhuxian conjured the frost barrier and trapped Su Zimo within, shouting, But don't force me. I'm a grade 8 earth immortal after all, and I'm 3 realms above you. Without the black light essence severing formation, you might not be able to win in a life and death battle. To be honest, even after recovering heaven and earth essence qi, Zhuo Zhuxian did not dare to fight Su Zimo. There was a hint of cowardice in his words, as he forced himself to put on a calm composure. After all, the scene of Su Zimo killing 13 execution guards in succession earlier on had a huge impact on him. The Zhua family is one of the 5 major family clans of Solar Luna County. Zhuxian shouted as he retreated, wanting to intimidate Su Zimo so that he could escape from this place. I even dared to kill the execution guards. Yet, you're trying to scare me with the 5 major family clans of Solar Luna County? Su Zimo sneered and in a flash, disappeared from the barrier conjured by the Frost Divine Power. By the time Su Zimo reappeared, he was already behind Zhuxian. When they saw that, Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo were shocked and their expressions changed. This is teleportation? Qiu Siluo looked at Gu Tongyu beside her in confusion. Gu Tongyu shook his head gently. It shouldn't be teleportation. Teleportation is a supreme divine power that can only be released by heaven immortal experts. This method is more like a secret skill of the dragon race. Pissed? Zhuxian's pupils constricted and he gasped. Vanished. He had been staring at Su Zimo fixedly the entire time, afraid that something might happen. However, Su Zimo suddenly vanished from his line of sight. The next moment, he felt an aura of death descend from behind him. Without hesitation, Zhuxian pointed to Shangguanqian, who was not far away, and hollered, "Nether swap." Swoosh. Zhuxian and Shangguanqian swapped positions instantly. Chapter 2099, 2099 Old Friends. 2099 Old Friends. It was no wonder why Zhuxian was a genius of the Zhua family. It was indeed extremely rare for him to be able to react in such a short period of time and release Nether Swap to avoid Su Zimo's killing move after the first flash of the true Dragon 9 flashes. However, Su Zimo's expression was unchanged as he disappeared once more in a flash. Zhuxian had just escaped. Before he could catch her breath, he turned back instinctively and was horrified to discover that Su Zimo had vanished once more. "Are you looking for me?" A calm voice sounded behind him. He was close by. Bang! The next moment, Zhuxian felt a sharp pain at the back of his head. An arrow of blood burst forth from his eyes and spilled down slowly. Su Zimo pierced his head with a single finger. His essence spirit was destroyed. Zhuxian fell limply to the ground with widened eyes. His expression was still filled with fear and his gaze dimmed. He was dead. Even after recovering Heaven and Earth Essence Chi, the Grade 8 Earth Immortal, Zhuxian, could not last 2 rounds. On the other side, Shangguanqian was swapped into midair by Zhuxian's Nether Swap. At that moment, she did not escape. Instead, she descended slowly from midair. She knew that even if she chose to escape, she would not be able to escape. The strength of Imo Ling before her had far surpassed her imagination. Shangguanqian looked at Su Zimo, who was walking over slowly with a conflicted expression. She was the first to notice that this person was unusual. However, she had not expected that this person would be so unusual that it was unbelievable. Before long, Su Zimo arrived before Shangguanqian. Shangguanqian sighed internally. She knew very well that although there was no feud between the two of them, there was no way Imo Ling would let her leave after witnessing this scene today. However, she was still puzzled and wanted an answer. "You were pretending to be drunk when you joined the sect, right?" Shangguanqian looked at Su Zimo and asked softly. She knew that she would definitely die. Instead of fear, she became calm. "Yes." Su Zimo nodded and did not lie. Shangguanqian thought for a moment and continued. "Did something happen for you to fail your breakthrough previously?" She had once seen a heartbreaking sadness in Su Zimo's eyes. Even she felt terrible when she saw that sadness. After a long silence, Su Zimo said, "Someone very, very important to me has left." Shangguanqian went silent as well. She did not know how to persuade him about something like that either. In fact, she even felt a hint of envy towards the person who left. Most cultivators were pure and heartless. Even if she died, there would not be many people in this world who would feel sad for her. At the thought of this, Shangguanqian laughed self-deprecatingly and thought to herself, If I have to die, so be it. Make your move. Shangguanqian closed her eyes. After a while, she did not feel any pain or killing. She opened her eyes and looked over. Unknowingly, Su Zimo had already left her and was tidying up the battlefield at the side, collecting the storage bags of the many execution guards, Zhuxian and the others. You can leave, Su Zimo said with his back facing Shangguanqian. Why didn't you kill me? Shangguanqian frowned slightly in confusion. Su Zimo asked instead, why should I kill you? In truth, apart from the fact that he wanted to silence them, there was another reason why he killed Zhuxian and Lin Ming. More importantly, it was because the two of them had provoked him repeatedly before and even wanted to kill him. The first time he came out of seclusion, both of them sent cultivators to follow him. The second time he came out of seclusion, when he was receiving the inheritance of the exalted mystic spirit Big Dipper True Sutra, Lin Ming wanted to interrupt him as well. After the inheritance was over, Zhuxian even threatened to snatch the cultivation technique. Although Shangguanqian was the first person to notice his abnormality, she had stood up for him countless times during this period of time. While Su Zimo did not express anything, he remembered everything. Although he had changed his appearance, his personality had not changed, and he was clear about gratitude and hatred. Zhuxian and Lin Ming deserved to be killed. However, Su Zimo would not kill Shangguanqian, who had helped him before, just to silence her. Furthermore, Shangguanqian did not know his true identity at all. He had the Trinity Auspicious Jade and could change his appearance at any moment. Shangguanqian had a conflicted expression and naturally did not know what Su Zimo was thinking. After a long silence, she suddenly said, "Thank you, fellow Taoist. However, I still have to make a vow. I, Shangguanqian, will definitely not reveal anything that I saw today. If I break this vow, the heavens will smite me and my soul will disperse." With that said, Shangguanqian cupped her fists and bowed to Su Zimo before turning to leave, disappearing into the horizon before long. During this period of time, Su Zimo had already tidied up the battlefield. He turned around and walked towards Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. At that moment, Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo felt uneasy as well. That was because the two of them did not know Mo Ling at all, and did not know why he would suddenly start a massacre and kill the execution guards. The two of them were not sure if Mo Ling would attack them to silence them. Looking at Su Zimo, who was gradually approaching, Gu Tongyu tightened his grip on the fallen soul flute. At that moment, heaven and earth essence chi had already recovered. Although he was injured, with the fallen soul flute around, he could fight Mo Ling. Benefactors, we meet again. Su Zimo came before Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo and bowed. At that moment, Gu Tongyu and Su Zimo were stunned. Benefactors? With a single thought from Su Zimo, his appearance gradually changed and his figure returned to normal. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a refined man with a scholarly aura. You? Gu Tongyu looked at Su Zimo with a confused expression, still unable to recognize him. He felt that the person before him looked familiar, as though he had seen him somewhere before. However, he could not recall where. Dragon Abyss Star? Su Zimo said. When Qiu Siluo heard those words, a thought flashed through her mind, and she came to a realization. I remember now. You're that black immortal. Gu Tongyu gradually recalled as well. More than 2,000 years ago, the two of them visited a secret ground on the Dragon Abyss Star. It was also there that the two of them obtained the soul-reaping Zither and the fallen soul flute. Before entering the secret ground, they encountered an Earth Immortal who wanted to kill another Black Immortal because of a Dermic treasure. The two of them could not take it lying down and helped to save the Black Immortal. This was an extremely ordinary matter for the two of them, and neither of them took it to heart. To think that they would meet that Black Immortal again today. What surprised Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo even more was that the former Black Immortal had already grown to such a terrifying extent. It had only been more than 2,000 years, and even with their talent, they had only advanced a single cultivation realm. This Black Immortal had already cultivated to become a Grade 5 Earth Immortal. Furthermore, His combat strength was so terrifying that both of them felt wary. Chapter 2100, 2100 Reminiscence. 2100 Reminiscence. I haven't seen you for more than 2,000 years, but you've grown so quickly. Impressive. Recognizing Su Zimo's identity, Gu Tongyu let down his guard as well and could not help but praise. Xiao Siluo smiled. Although we saved you before, you saved us earlier on as well. Don't call us your benefactors. That will make us seem distant. That's right. Gu Tongyu nodded slightly and asked again, how should I address you, fellow Taoist? I'm Su Zimo. Su Zimo did not hide his identity against Gu Tongyu and Su Zimo. Gu Tongyu's expression changed. As though he recalled something, he asked, all these years, a prince of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom has been hunting down somebody. That's me. Su Zimo nodded. Gu Tongyu said, Brother Su, your disguise technique is truly impressive and flawless. It's no wonder why you could hide for more than 2,000 years against the pursuit of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. However, because you saved us and exposed your identity, I'm afraid you can't stay in Astral Sect anymore. Xiao Siluo looked guilty. Su Zimo shook his head. Even without this matter, I was prepared to leave. Previously, he was in a hurry to raise his cultivation realm in seclusion. After coming out of seclusion this time round, he did not intend to continue staying in the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. He had to find an opportunity to leave this place. In the great Jin Immortal Kingdom, he had offended a prince and could be hunted down at any moment. The only way to resolve the current situation was to leave the territory ruled by the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. If he wanted to break out of the situation, the best way was to look for protection, a faction that could go against the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. There's only hope after leaving the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Gu Tongyu said in a deep voice as well. The situation they were facing was not much different from Su Zimo. Furthermore, the person they offended was even stronger and had a higher status than Prince Yuanzhua. What are your plans from now on? Su Zimo asked. Gu Tongyu and Xiao Siluo exchanged glances, and the melancholy in their eyes deepened as they sighed gently. The two of us have offended Zither Immortal Meng Yao. We probably can't even stay in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain anymore. Is Meng Yao that terrifying? Su Zimo asked with a frown. Xiao Siluo explained, if Meng Yao was only a princess of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom, she wouldn't have such an impact. However, she's also a legacy disciple of Flying Immortal Sect. There aren't many legacy disciples in each of the 4 immortal sections. One can only be conferred the title of a legacy disciple after their cultivation reaches the perfected 1 realm and they become perfected immortals. The legacy disciples of the 4 immortal sects have noble statuses even in the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain, let alone the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Furthermore, Meng Yao is one of the 4 great fairies. In the entire Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, and even the experts of the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain, it's their honor to be able to listen to the sound of Meng Yao's Zither. In the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain, the Zither Immortal's music is even described to be a heavenly sound that's priceless. None of the top factions in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain will offend Zither Immortal Meng Yao for the 2 of us. Su Zimo was silent. In that case, the situation Gu Tongyu and Xiao Siluo were facing was even worse than his. We might head to other immortal domains. At that point, Gu Tongyu paused for a moment before saying, if we truly have no way out, we can only head to the Fiend Domain. Fiend Domain. Su Zimo could not help but think of the Thunder Emperor who had already headed to the Fiend Domain. He did not know how the Thunder Emperor was and if his injuries had healed. Brother Su, I heard you mention that your Dao heart was damaged because someone very important to you has left. Suddenly, Gu Tongyu asked. That's right. Su Zimo sighed sadly. He recalled Ji Yaoshua's voice and expression and was in a daze. Although many things happened today, it had only been less than a day since Ji Yaoshua passed away. Su Zimo could not break free from that dejected mood. His chest felt stuffy and he felt terrible, but he had nowhere to vent it. The more he was like this, the more difficult it was for his Tao heart to heal. If he could not get out of this predicament, there was a high chance that he would form a vicious cycle and sink into it. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo exchanged glances and nodded slightly. Qiu Siluo placed the soul-reaping Zither on her knees and plucked the strings gently with her jade-like fingers, letting out a sound like flowing water. It was like water droplets dripping or meteors streaking through the night sky, vast and quirky. Instantly, Su Zimo seemed to have passed through a water barrier and ripples appeared, as though he had returned to the past. Gu Tongyu picked up the fallen soul flute and placed it by his lips. A mellow sound of sobbing could be heard. Su Zimo caught sight of Ji Yaoxue again. That unforgettable woman. From their first encounter to the capital of Great Zhou, everything seemed to be the same. However, in this memory, Su Zimo and Ji Yaoxue became Dao companions and accompanied one another, leaving behind countless happy times. Su Zimo did not ascend and merely accompanied Ji Yaoxue to grow old. Eventually, the two of them fell asleep in each other's embrace and were buried together. The sound of the zither and flute gradually faded until it was silent. By the time Su Zimo woke up, his face was already covered in tears. Upon receiving the news of Ji Yaoxue's departure, he had nowhere to vent and kept it in his heart. Both Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo could tell that Su Zimo was in an extremely bad mental state. There was a high chance that he would suffer qi deviation if he cultivated in the future, let alone recover his Dao heart. The two of them were proficient in the Dao of music and played the zither and flute together, bringing Su Zimo into a memory. Su Zimo's emotions rose and fell along with the sound of the zither and flute, venting out in this memory and obtaining freedom. By the time Su Zimo woke up, the injuries on his Dao heart had already healed. The heaven and earth essence qi in his body surged continuously and washed through his body like a tsunami. The inheritance obtained by Astral Sect was only of use at this moment. When Su Zimo received the inheritance, the Green Lotus True Body endured the starlight of 2 star regions. The starlight came from the vast stars. Every single starlight contained rich and pure heaven and earth essence qi. Su Zimo's acceptance of the inheritance also meant that he was absorbing the heaven and earth essence qi into his body. However, his Dao heart was damaged and prevented him from breaking through, causing the heaven and earth essence qi to accumulate in his body. Now that his Dao heart had recovered, the accumulated heaven and earth essence qi surged rapidly as well. Su Zimo's cultivation realm broke through once more. Grade 6 Earth Immortal. After breaking through to the level 6 Earth Essence realm, the heaven and earth essence qi in his body was still extremely vast. If he refined all the heaven and earth essence qi, he could even reach the peak of a grade 6 Earth Immortal. However, this was not a suitable place for cultivation. Su Zimo suppressed the essence qi in his body for the time being and wiped away the tears on his face. He bowed deeply to Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. There were no words that could express his gratitude. He had already engraved this favor in his heart. Qiu Siluo smiled gently. Su Zimo lamented, "I've never heard the sound of the Zither Immortal before. However, I think that she can only be worthy of the title of the Zither Immortal if her Zither sound can be compared to yours." "How can I compare to the Zither Immortal?" Qiu Siluo smiled. "What was the name of that song earlier on?" Su Zimo asked again. "Reminiscence," Qiu Siluo said. "Reminiscence, reminiscence," Su Zimo murmured softly. Chapter 2101 2101 Test 2101 Test. Brother Su, 13 execution guards have died. The Great Jin Immortal Kingdom will definitely not let this go. We can't linger here. Let's part ways here, Gu Tongyu said. In that short period of time, their injuries healed significantly and they could move freely. Since all of us want to leave the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, why don't we travel together so that we can take care of one another? Qiu Siluo suggested. Gu Tongyu shook his head gently. Brother Su, I had the same thought but decided against it. We provoked Zither Immortal Meng Yao, a perfected immortal expert. Now that her pursuit failed this time round, there's a high chance she'll send out the Heaven Execution Guards next time, or even come out personally. You'll be implicated instead if you travel with us. Chosiluo nodded as well. That's right. After pondering for a moment, Suzimo suddenly said, Guys, the Heaven Execution Guard commanders have a blood guidance secret skill that can determine your location through the blood that you've spilled. It's fine. Gu Tongyu waved it off. The fallen soul flute and the soul-reaping Zither in our hands can sever the connection to blood guidance. That's good. Suzimo was finally relieved. Suddenly, Gu Tongyu said, Brother Su, take this fallen soul flute with you. A look of reluctance flashed through Gu Tongyu's eyes, but he still handed the fallen soul flute over. Suzimo was touched. He knew that Gu Tongyu was worried that he would be found by the blood guidance secret skill and captured by the execution guards. It was self-evident how important the fallen soul flute was to Gu Tongyu. Treasures like the fallen soul flute and the soul-reaping Zither had even alarmed Zither Immortal Meng Yao. It was clear how precious those two treasures were. But now, Gu Tongyu wanted to hand over the fallen soul flute without hesitation because he was worried about Suzimo's safety. Suzimo shook his head. Brother Gu, don't worry. I have something on me as well such that the blood guidance secret skill of the Heaven Execution Guards can't sense me. This was the Thunder Jade Pendant given to him by the Thunder Emperor. It was because of this Jade Pendant and the Trinity Auspicious Jade that Suzimo was able to remain dormant in Astral Sect for more than 2,000 years. Gu Tongyu said in a deep voice, All right, Brother Su. Let's bid farewell here. If we're lucky enough to survive, we'll meet again if we're fated. We'll meet again if fate allows it. Suzimo bid farewell with cupped fists as well. Gu Tongyu and Chosiluo soared into the air and left towards the west. Suzimo waved his hand and put away all 49 array flags. Those array flags were now ownerless. If they could be refined and used properly, they would be a powerful method of victory. Although he had the Thunder Jade Pendant, out of caution, Suzimo still condensed the Kachirati Dao fire and burned the corpses on the ground. The execution guards were already dead. Without essence chi or essence spirits, the Kachirati Dao fire alone was enough to burn the corpses clean. Flames surged into the skies. Just as Suzimo was about to leave, a streak of light sped over from afar at an astonishing speed. Suzimo's heart skipped a beat. At that moment, it was already too late for him to activate the Trinity Auspicious Jade to change his appearance. What was even more frightening was that the pressure released by the cultivator covered the skies and was far beyond what he could withstand. A Heaven Immortal expert. Furthermore, it was a high-level Heaven Immortal expert. He had almost no means of defending against a Heaven Immortal expert. The three awakened sacred souls in the Hell Suppression Tripod had already lost their strength and fell asleep because of the consecutive battles. If a Heaven Immortal expert were to attack him, he would definitely die. Suzimo's expression changed when he saw who it was. That cultivator was Astral Rain, the sect master of Astral Sect. In the blink of an eye, Astral Rain arrived and was slightly stunned when he saw Suzimo. He was even more shocked when he saw the fire at the side. At that moment, the flames were raging and had yet to incinerate the many corpses. One could still vaguely make out their figures. Astral Rain could naturally tell that the 13 execution guards as well as Wu Xian, Lin Ming, and Xie Tianfeng had died here. You're Suzimo, who's wanted by the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. When Astral Rain saw Suzimo, he recognized the latter quickly and asked with a frown, Why are you here? Where's a Mo Ling of my sect? Suzimo remained silent. He found it strange as well. Logically speaking, Astral Rain should have attacked the moment he recognized him. Why would he ask about Mo Ling's location? Astral Rain's gaze scanned Suzimo a few times and noticed something unusual. Although Suzimo's physique and appearance had changed, he was still wearing the same attire as before Mo Ling left the sect. Suzimo did not even have time to take off the Astral Sect badge on his waist and throw it away. Suzimo, Mo Ling, you're Mo Ling? That speculation flashed through Astral Rain's mind as he suddenly asked. Although that speculation seemed ridiculous, He recalled that the time when Imo Ling joined the sect was when the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom was hunting down Su Zimo. Furthermore, it was truly strange that Imo Ling rarely showed himself after entering the sect and was in seclusion the entire time. There was also the scene before him. Imo Ling left Astral Sect with many execution guards. Now that Imo Ling was gone, Su Zimo was standing here in Imo Ling's clothes. Answer me. Suddenly, Astral Rain released a massive spirit consciousness and locked onto Su Zimo. With a sharp expression, he asked slowly, "Are you Imo Ling or not?" Su Zimo was still silent and tense. Suddenly, Astral Rain waved his sleeves and scattered starlight that enveloped Su Zimo. The starlight was way too strong, and any single streak of it was enough to kill Su Zimo. However, Su Zimo had just received the inheritance of the exalted mystic spirit Big Dipper True Sutra. When he was attacked by the starlight, the cultivation technique sensed it and circulated on its own. Whoosh! 2 large star regions appeared above Su Zimo's head. They were led by the Alcade and Mizar stars and were surrounded by millions of stars. The 2 star regions were still far from the true Big Dipper star region. Even so, the 2 star regions hovered above Su Zimo's head, forming a gigantic phenomenon that shone with endless starlight. It was shocking enough. Starlight shone brightly from Su Zimo's body like a god beneath the starry skies, and his aura surged. The mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram. It's indeed you. When Astral Rain saw the 2 star regions appear, he had a conflicted expression and did not continue attacking. Instead, he sighed gently and dispersed the surrounding starlight. The mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram in the skies dissipated as well. Su Zimo was puzzled. He could not sense any killing intent from Astral Rain. In fact, he could not even sense any hostility. Right now, his life was worth 1,000,000 essence spirit stones. If he was captured alive, the rewards would be even greater. However, Astral Rain did not seem to have any intention of attacking him. The scene earlier on was merely a test to confirm Su Zimo's true identity. Senior. Now that things had come to this, there was no need for Su Zimo to hide anything. I'm Imo Ling. Chapter 2102. 2102 Immortal Sect Selection. 2102 Immortal Sect Selection. Sigh. After a long silence, Astral Rain finally sighed. Leave. Leave the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom as soon as possible. Senior, why are you? Su Zimo was puzzled and could not understand Astral Rain's thoughts. The 2 of them did not have any relationship. If Astral Rain captured him, he would be able to exchange for a large number of treasures. Even without handing him over, he could force out the exalted mystic spirit Big Dipper True Sutra. Astral Rain seemed to have read Su Zimo's mind. When I saw that you were taken away by Commander Liu, I guessed that he was after the inheritance you just obtained. Although I'm the sect master and don't want you to meet with such a calamity, I don't dare to offend the execution guards either. Astral Rain did not conceal his fear towards the execution guards in the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. However, I could not calm down after returning to my cave abode. Astral Rain said, after so many years, the inheritance of Astral Sect has finally appeared in this generation. Am I going to let the execution guards snatch it away just like that? As the sect master of Astral Sect, am I going to watch the successor die prematurely because of this? At that point, Astral Rain laughed self-deprecatingly. I came this time round with the intention of risking my life to kill these execution guards and save you. To think that they're already dead. Although Astral Rain did not say it explicitly, one could imagine how difficult it was for him to make that decision. Attacking the execution guards was equivalent to taking on a massive existence like the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. If you're just Su Zimo, I won't let you off. Astral Rain said, however, you're Imo Ling and have received the inheritance of Astral Sect. I hope that this inheritance can shine once more in your hands. His tone was sincere, and there was a hint of anticipation in his eyes. Even in the upper world, not everyone was evil and would bully the weak. Not everyone was greedy and cold-blooded. Astral Rain knew in his heart that since this inheritance chose Suzimo, it meant that he was the most suitable candidate. Suddenly, he took out a talisman from his storage bag and handed it to Suzimo. This is a major transference talisman. It can teleport you directly to a city at the border of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, Seven Feather City. Suzimo was secretly speechless. The territory of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom was vast, and there were 16 counties and more than 1,000 cities. Given Suzimo's cultivation, even if he traveled day and night, it would take him months to cross a county, let alone the entire Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. It was clear how precious that talisman was. Tear this talisman apart and descend at the border. After leaving Seven Feather City, it's equivalent to breaking free from the pursuit of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Pausing for a moment, Astral Rain continued, however, leaving the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom doesn't mean that it's safe. In Divine Firmament Mainland, only half of the territory controlled by the 3 Immortal Kingdoms is occupied. Most of the remaining half is ownerless and contains all sorts of powerful living beings that are filled with danger and unknowns. Some of the spirit grounds are occupied by powerful itinerant cultivators. Some of the mountain ranges are occupied by terrifying demon beasts. Some of the blessed lands are under the jurisdiction of immortal sects. There are countless similar places. If you enter by mistake, your life will be in danger at any moment. Suzimo pondered for a moment and asked, how can I leave the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain after leaving the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom? Astral Rain said, after leaving the city, head south. If nothing goes wrong, given your cultivation, it might take you dozens of years to cross more than half of Divine Firmament Mainland's territory to reach the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain. Dozens of years. Suzimo frowned slightly. That time estimate was under the most ideal conditions. According to Astral Rain, he had to experience countless dangers crossing those ownerless lands where various factions and powerful living beings resided. If anything were to happen during this period of time, it would be normal for him to take hundreds or even thousands of years. Isn't there any teleportation method? Suzimo asked with a frown. Yes. Astral Rain said, however, the teleportation hall is located in the capitals of the 3 Immortal Kingdoms, the 4 Immortal Sects and Divine Firmament City. Without a special status, you can dream about entering the capitals of the 3 Immortal Kingdoms, or the 4 Immortal Sections. As for Divine Firmament City, that's the territory of the Divine Firmament Immortal Emperor with countless experts living in seclusion. Even if you possess myriad transformations, you'll definitely reveal flaws there. Suzimo shook his head. The path of using a teleportation formation was even more unrealistic. Where's the Green Firmament Immortal Domain? Suzimo's heart skipped a beat as he asked. The Thunder Emperor had once told him that the human emperor, Lin Zhan, was in the Green Firmament Immortal Domain right now and controlled an immortal kingdom. The Green Firmament Immortal Domain is even further. Astral Rain shook his head. The south of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain is the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain. Further south is the Elixir Firmament Immortal Domain, and further south is the Green Firmament Immortal Domain. That's 2 immortal domains in the middle, and it's even further. Suzimo shook his head. Given his current capabilities, there was no way he could reach the Green Firmament Immortal Domain. Astral Rain thought for a moment and suddenly said, actually, if you can join one of the 4 immortal sects, you might be able to resolve this calamity. 4 immortal sects? Suzimo murmured softly. Back on the Dragon Abyss Star, he had come into contact with cultivators of the 4 immortal sections. The 4 immortal sects of Divine Firmament Mainland were the Mountain Sea Immortal Sect, Imperial Wind Temple, Heaven and Earth Academy, and Flying Immortal Sect. Astral Rain said in a deep voice, in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, the 4 immortal sects are the only factions that can fight against the 3 immortal kingdoms. Although they are sects, their foundations are terrifying and are definitely not weaker than an immortal kingdom. If I can join one of the 4 immortal sects, will I be able to escape the threat of Prince Yuanzhua? Suzimo asked again. Astral Rain nodded and said, more than 2,000 years ago, because of Feng Cantillon, Prince Yuan's was status among the many princes and princesses of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom plummeted. The current prince and county governor of Green Cloud County have changed as well. Although you're being hunted by him, as long as you leave the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom and join the 4 immortal sects, no matter how arrogant Yuan's Wo is, he won't dare to capture anyone from the 4 immortal sects. However, Astral Rain wanted to speak but stopped. However, Su Zimo asked. Astral Rain hesitated for a moment. Given your current cultivation, it's probably unrealistic for you to join the 4 immortal sections. Let's forget about this matter. Why? Su Zimo frowned and asked, what are the conditions required to join the 4 immortal sects? Every 100 years, the 4 immortal sects will hold an immortal sect selection in the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. The most talented and powerful Earth Immortals of Divine Firmament Mainland will be gathered. Astral Rain said, the entire selection will last for a year, and only 100 Earth Immortals will be invited to join the 4 immortal sects in the end. There's a restriction on one's cultivation realm in the immortal sect selection? Su Zimo asked. Not really, as long as you're an Earth Immortal. Astral Rain said, however, those taking part in the immortal sect selection are all top Earth Immortal experts from all over Divine Firmament Mainland. The weakest among them are Grade 7 Earth Immortals. The ones who stand out in the end are almost entirely Grade 9 Earth Immortals. Although you have the help of the Mystic Spirit Big Dipper diagram, the difference in your cultivation realm is still too great. You won't stand a chance even if you take part in the immortal sect selection. The competition for the immortal sect selection is way too intense and cruel. If you're careless, your life might be in danger. When Astral Rain saw the corpses of the execution guards strewn all over the ground, he instinctively thought that these people had died in the hands of the people hunted down by the execution guards. He had not thought that Su Zimo had anything to do with their deaths. Chapter 2103 2103 Leaving the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom 2103 Leaving the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. He had doubts about whether there was anything wrong with the teleportation talisman as well. However, given Astral Rain's cultivation realm, there was truly no need for him to go through so much trouble to deal with Su Zimo. Taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo tore the teleportation talisman apart. The shards of the talisman spun continuously, and a dark, spatial tunnel appeared in midair. Su Zimo walked in. When traveling through the spatial tunnel, one could not sense the passage of space and time, or the weight of their bodies. All their senses would be greatly weakened. An unknown period of time passed. After a few breaths, Su Zimo's eyes lit up and he felt his body lighten as he fell rapidly from midair. He controlled his body hurriedly and released his spirit consciousness, on guard. There was no danger in the surroundings and it was empty. He had already left the spatial tunnel. In the distant horizon, a gigantic ancient city could be vaguely seen. Speeding in the direction of the ancient city, Su Zimo recognized before long that there were 3 words written on the ancient city: Seven Feather City. Seven Feather City was an ancient city at the southern border of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. This teleportation talisman had indeed teleported Su Zimo to the borders of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. As long as he passed through this ancient city, he would leave the territory of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. At that time, with the help of the Trinity Auspicious Jade, he would be able to roam freely. Su Zimo disguised himself as a sickly young cultivator. His face was yellow and his lips were pale without any color. He did not encounter any obstacles when he entered Seven Feather City. When he left Seven Feather City, many city guards checked on him many times and asked him some questions. Unlike other cities, the ancient cities at the borders were heavily guarded. Su Zimo had long prepared for answers and managed to leave the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom safely. After speeding for a while, Su Zimo stopped and turned around. He looked deeply in the direction of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom with a cold gaze. Thereafter, he followed the map and sprinted in the direction of Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. 13 execution guards died in Solar Luna County, incurring the wrath of the county governor. At the same time, Prince Yuan Zhua, who was in Solar Luna County, received the news as well. He brought a commander of the execution guards, Lone Star, and a group of Earth execution guards to the location of the incident. Back then, Prince Yuan Zhua was shocked by the heir of King Jin and was scared out of his wits. When the heir of King Jin wanted him to get rid of all the remnant knight forces in the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, there was no way he could disobey. Because of Feng Santian's escape, King Jin was enraged and removed his authority in Green Cloud County, as well as perfected Immortal Jing Yu's Green Cloud County governor position. Over the years, apart from chasing after Su Zimo, Prince Yuanzhua spent most of his time traveling around the territory of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom to search for and exterminate the survivors of Remnant Night. He did not dare to relax at all with the warning of the heir of King Jin. The days of peace and comfort were long gone. Right now, Prince Yuanzhua was exhausted from the workload. Among the many princes and princesses, his status was already ranked below average. More importantly, the true body that he had tirelessly and painstakingly condensed was crippled, and the prime body was implicated at the critical juncture of breaking through to the perfected One realm. Without a huge opportunity, he might never be able to become a perfected immortal. With a single mistake, he fell from the clouds to the bottom of the valley. Everything that happened after that, the Jade Talisman was snatched away, and he was injured by the heir of King Jin. Everything was because of a single person, Su Zimo. Chapter 2104, 2104 Emergence of the Zither Immortal. 2104 Emergence of the Zither Immortal. Solar Luna County. By the time Prince Yuanzhua arrived with the commander of the execution guards, Lone Star, and a group of Earth execution guards, many cultivators were already gathered at the scene. Apart from some execution guards, there were also immortal soldiers guarding the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom that sealed the vicinity. The county governor of Solar Luna County was also here. Greetings, Your Highness. When the Solar Luna County governor saw Prince Yuanzhua arrive, he cupped his fists and greeted. Although Prince Yuanzhua's status had decreased over the years, and he had lost the rule of Green Cloud County, he still had the bloodline of King Ji. The county governor of Solar Luna County did not dare to be negligent and retained the most basic respect for him. Of course, Prince Yuanzhua could not command the county governor of Solar Luna County either. What happened? Prince Yuanzhua entered the center and swept his gaze across some traces of the battlefield, asking with a frown. There was nothing left on the battlefield except piles of ashes. In the ashes, there were even a few fragments of the black gold feather armor that had not been completely incinerated. There were almost no valuable clues. 13 Earth execution guards died, including 3 commanders. The county governor of Solar Luna County said in a deep voice, "According to the information I received, these Earth execution guards should have been ordered by Princess Ming Yao to hunt down a man and woman. However, all of those execution guards were annihilated here." Right then, an immortal light sped over from afar and arrived before them in the blink of an eye, emitting a tremendous might. It was a woman. She was tall and wore plain blue palace robes. Her face was fair and flawless. Her black hair was tied into a bun, and she had an extraordinary aura. Many cultivators present were stunned when they saw the woman, as though they had lost their souls. However, the woman exuded a cold and extremely dangerous aura that prevented strangers from approaching, causing many cultivators to sober up right away. "What are you guys looking at? Kneel down and greet Princess Ming Yao." The county governor of Solar Luna County hollered and swept his gaze across the surrounding immortal soldier guards. The guards of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom usually did not have the chance to see the true appearance of Zither Immortal Ming Yao. Now that they saw her, they were deeply attracted to her peerless beauty and could not extricate themselves. Many execution guards reacted right away and knelt down to greet. Most of the surrounding guards snapped out of their stupor after being reminded by the county governor of Solar Luna County. They lowered their heads hurriedly and knelt on the ground. There were also dozens of guards who were still motionless, looking at Ming Yao in a daze. This was Princess Ming Yao, one of the 4 great fairies, the Zither Immortal Ming Yao. Notwithstanding the sound of Fairy Ming Yao's zither, that face alone was enough to captivate them. The four fairies had been famous for many years. All of them had different personalities and unique characteristics. However, the faces of the four fairies could be said to be the best in the Divine Firmament Immortal domain. Even in the Nine Firmament Immortal domain, they were top-tier beauties. Otherwise, they would not have been qualified to be called the Four Great Fairies. Qin Shuang, it's time to discipline your guards, Meng Yao said slowly and coldly. You are right, Princess Meng Yao. When we go back, I'll punish the dozens of guards severely and let them remember today's lesson. The county governor of Solar Luna County said hurriedly. Meng Yao said indifferently, there's no need to go back. I'll discipline these people for you today. The moment she said that, Meng Yao extended her slender fingers and flicked the void. Clang! Suddenly, the sound of a zither sounded in midair. The eyes of the dozens of guards exploded and blood spurted out. Ah! The dozens of guards let out tragic cries. Right from the beginning, Meng Yao did not even look at them. She could not be bothered to look at them. On account that you guys are guards of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, I'm giving you a small punishment by blinding your eyes. Although Meng Yao's words were filled with killing intent, they seemed to have a magical power and her voice was indescribably pleasant. The dozens of guards were blinded and endured the pain. However, strange and infatuated smiles appeared on their faces, as though they were extremely satisfied and excited. It's worth it even if I have to go blind to be able to see Fairy Meng Yao's face in this lifetime. I no longer have any regrets in my life after hearing Fairy Meng Yao speak to me. The dozens of guards merely took a single look at Meng Yao and were subdued. Even if they were blinded, they did not have any resentment. When she heard that, Fairy Meng Yao was not enraged. Instead, her beautiful eyes seemed to smile. She loved the feeling of others bowing down to her. Sister Meng Yao, you've really gotten prettier after so many years. Prince Yuanzhua hurried forward and said with a smile, I couldn't even recognize you right away, thinking that a beautiful fairy had descended. Meng Yao was indeed worthy of those praises. However, Prince Yuanzhua's words were more or less pandering and flattering. Even if Meng Yao could sense it, she would not expose him. She enjoyed the feeling of being praised and admired by everyone. She was confident. She was deserving of any and every praise out there. Yuanzhua, it's been a long time. Princess Meng Yao nodded slightly. The two of them were from different mothers and did not have a deep relationship. However, no matter what, both of them had the bloodline of King Jin flowing through their bodies. Meng Yao's reply to Prince Yuanzhua served as a greeting. Any clues? Meng Yao turned to look at the county governor of Solar Luna County and asked in a deep voice. This place was burned to ashes by a fire. I haven't gained anything yet. The county governor of Solar Luna County shook his head. Although Princess Meng Yao did not control any territory in the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, apart from the heir of King Jin, she was second among the many descendants of King Jin. It was not only because Princess Meng Yao was a legacy disciple of Flying Immortal Sect and was strong in combat, but also because she was the Zither Immortal. The Zither Immortal's influence was extremely great and was even above the heir of King Jin. Therefore, Princess Meng Yao could even command all the county governors of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Sister Meng Yao, let Lone Star try using the Blood Guidance secret skill. Prince Yuanzhua stood out hurriedly and made a suggestion. Lone Star did not dare to hesitate and channeled his secret skill hurriedly, attempting to gather the blood in the area to sense the direction. However, a long time later, Lone Star dispersed his dermic formulation and shook his head with a bitter smile. No, I can't sense it. It's as though it's blocked by some power. Meng Yao pondered for a moment. It must be because of those two treasures. The soul-reaping zither and the fallen soul flute were two ferocious weapons of the ancient era that could isolate the detection of blood guidance. Humph! Meng Yao sneered and thought to herself, I'll come out personally this time round and catch the two of you ants. At that thought, she sped into the distance. Before long, her voice sounded. Get all the heaven execution guards of Solar Luna County out and search for those two with all your might. Understood. The county governor of Solar Luna County bowed and replied. It was clear how much Ming Yao valued this matter by using the heaven execution guards of a county to search for 2 Earth Immortals. Prince Yuan's were raised his brows slightly and looked at Lone Star, saying softly, "Let's go too. We can't interfere in this matter." "Yes," Lone Star replied. Chapter 2105, 2105 a month, 2105 a month. Su Zimo advanced in the direction of Coiling Dragon Mountain Range according to the map. He encountered dangers along the way as well. Thankfully, he was already a grade 6 Earth Immortal now. With the treasures such as the Hell Suppression Tripod and many powerful methods, he could already protect himself and was safe. Dangers lurked everywhere as he traveled with all his might, and Su Zimo did not dare to divert his attention to cultivate. Although he had accumulated a large amount of heaven and earth essence chi in his body after receiving the inheritance of the exalted mystic spirit Big Dipper True Sutra, he still did not have the chance to absorb and refine it. Therefore, his cultivation realm was still at the level of a grade 6 Earth Immortal. 2 months later, Su Zimo finally caught sight of Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Even without checking against the map, he was certain that the endless and majestic mountain range before him was the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Astral Rain was not wrong. Anyone who was here could not ignore the majestic mountain range before them. Arriving in the vicinity, the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range on the map became increasingly clear and transformed into a curved, pitch-black, thick line that crossed almost the entire Divine Firmament mainland, splitting it into 2. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range could no longer be judged purely by its length. The terrain of Coiling Dragon Mountain Range was complex and varied. Some regions meandered like a divine dragon traveling, while others formed a circle like a divine dragon coiling around with a celestial charm. Su Zimo continued forward. Before long, he heard a commotion ahead. There were many figures densely packed on the mountain range. For gigantic auspicious clouds floated in the skies of Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Hundreds of people stood on them and looked down. It was only when he approached Coiling Dragon Mountain Range that Su Zimo truly experienced the grandeur of the Immortal Sect selection. Many cultivators stood at the peak of the mountain range. At a glance, there were at least millions of cultivators and it was bustling. Those cultivators had different cultivation realms: Black Immortals, Earth Immortals, and Heaven Immortals. Some of them were itinerant cultivators, while others were cultivators of some sects and factions. Gathered together, they glared at the bottom of the mountain range and exclaimed or cheered from time to time. Su Zimo soared into the air. Before long, he arrived at the peak and looked down as well. Beneath the mountain range, a gigantic water barrier rose slightly and hovered in midair. Images were reflected on the water barrier, and it could be seen clearly that some cultivators were fighting with their lives. Some were walking alone, and some were escaping with all their might. The water barrier was similar to the Mirage Mirror and could reflect many situations in an area on the water barrier. Su Zimo looked around and arrived beside a Black Immortal, coughing gently. The Black Immortal was shocked by the voice and turned back. "Let me ask you a few things." Su Zimo's expression was calm, and his tone was indifferent. "Exalted Immortal, please speak." The Black Immortal could not figure out Su Zimo's background. Coupled with the fact that his cultivation realm was not high, he did not dare to delay and replied hurriedly. "Tell me about the rules of the Immortal Sect selection." Su Zimo did not beat around the bush and asked straightforwardly. The Black Immortal was slightly stunned, but he reacted quickly. The Immortal Sect selection is actually a gathering of many Earth Immortal experts to kill one another. The terrain of this Coiling Dragon Mountain Range surrounds itself internally and forms a valley. I heard that experts of the 4 Immortal Sects once joined forces and used this terrain to set up a sealed formation. The water barrier below can reflect the situation in the valley at any moment. The Black Immortal explained as he pointed to the valley formed by Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. "How many Earth Immortals are taking part in the Immortal Sect selection this time round?" Su Zimo asked. The Black Immortal said, "Before the selection began, the four immortal sects announced a total of 180,451 people. So many. Zimo was secretly speechless. Those participating in the immortal sect selection were not ordinary Earth immortals. Those who dared to take part in the immortal sect selection were all top-tier Earth immortal experts, and the weakest were Grade 7 Earth immortals. The fact that 180,000 top Earth immortals were gathered here was proof of how attractive the four immortal sects were to many cultivators. What was even more cruel was that only 100 of the 180,000 top Earth immortals would be selected in the end. The competition was way too intense. The fact that they could take part in the immortal sect selection meant that they had already surpassed most Earth immortals. Even in this group, only 100 of the most outstanding Earth immortals were selected to join the four immortal sects. Zimo glared at a pair of cultivators fighting in the water barrier below. One of them was defeated and was severely injured. Just as he was about to die in the other party's hands, the person suddenly took out a golden badge. Immediately after, the golden badge shone with a golden light, forming a golden barrier that protected the person and blocked all the attacks of the cultivator opposite him. Thereafter, a vortex appeared above the heads of the two people. It dragged the severely injured cultivator outside, but left the golden badge in his hands in the valley. Before entering the vortex, the storage bag on the person's waist suddenly exploded and dozens of identical golden badges appeared. The cultivator on the other end waved his hand and put away the dozens of badges with a delighted expression. The cultivator that was taken away by Vortex was thrown out of the battlefield and landed outside Coiling Dragon Mountain range with a sorry expression. "What's that golden badge?" Zimo asked. "That's the Coiling Dragon badge issued by the four immortal sections. Every Earth immortal participating in the immortal sect selection has one." The Black Immortal said, "If you truly can't defeat your enemy in the valley below or encounter a life and death crisis, inject your essence chi into the Coiling Dragon badge and activate the golden barrier. Your life will then be saved. Of course, that also means failure. You will be taken away from the battlefield and leave your Coiling Dragon badge in the valley." Pausing for a moment, the Black Immortal said, "Right, there's one more thing. The immortal sect selection will last for a year. No matter how many people are left on the battlefield in the end, the 100 people who obtain the most Coiling Dragon badges will be the final victors." Zimo nodded slightly. That way, it could avoid the situation where cultivators hid passively and avoided challenges until the end. Zimo thought of something else. There was a high chance that the rules of Absolute Thunder City's 10 Absolute Hell were copied from the immortal sect selection and the two were similar. However, the 10 Absolute Hell was in a killing mode and there was no other way out. At the very least, the immortal sect selection left a chance of survival for the Earth immortals who entered the battlefield. As long as one knew how to give up and activated the Coiling Dragon badge at a critical juncture, they would definitely not die. Zimo thought of an extremely critical matter and suddenly asked, "How long more before the immortal sect selection ends?" "There's only a month left." The Black Immortal pointed to the valley. There were originally more than 180,000 Earth immortal experts. After more than half a year of competition, there are only slightly more than 1,000 left on the battlefield. It'll end soon. A month? Zimo's gaze was deep as he looked at the valley below and murmured, "That's enough time." Chapter 2106, 2106 Princess Scarlet Rainbow. 2106 Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Actually, Zimo was in no hurry to take part in the immortal sect selection this time round. As long as he cultivated in peace and absorbed and refined all the heaven and earth essence chi in his body before entering seclusion for a period of time, he might even have a chance to break through to become a Grade 7 Earth Immortal. At that time, he would have a greater chance and advantage if he participated in the immortal sect selection. However, even for the next immortal sect selection, he would have to wait another 100 years. Although 100 years seemed short, there were many unpredictable changes that could happen. Furthermore, for some unknown reason, Zimo had always felt uneasy. Perhaps it was the pressure from the great Jin Immortal Kingdom, the threat of King Yunyu, or some other unimaginable danger. Su Zimo wanted to get out of his current predicament as soon as possible. For others, a month was extremely pressing. However, it was enough for him. With more than 180,000 Earth Immortal experts taking part in the Immortal Sect selection, it meant that there were an equivalent number of coiling dragon badges in the valley. If Su Zimo could obtain around 1,800 coiling dragon badges, he would be able to get into the top 100 to win. Hurry, look. Princess Scarlet Rainbow won. Princess Scarlet Rainbow defeated another person and obtained quite a number of coiling dragon badges. She should have more than 3,000 badges in total. A series of exclamations sounded from the side. Princess Scarlet Rainbow? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Right now, he was a little sensitive when he heard about cultivators with titles of princes and princesses. Which immortal kingdom is Princess Scarlet Rainbow from? She's also here for the Immortal Sect selection? Su Zimo asked softly. Princess Scarlet Rainbow is from the Yin-Yang Immortal Kingdom. The Black Immortal pointed at a young girl on the water barrier with a look of admiration. The girl had a high ponytail and wore a red martial arts outfit. Her waist was slender, and she had a ribbon tied around it. She wore red cloud boots and looked extremely heroic. Dozens of blood-red flying swords circled around the girl. Their sword chi surged into the skies, and they were extremely sharp. No one dared to approach them. The Black Immortal paused for a moment before saying, over the years, some of the princes and princesses of the various immortal kingdoms will choose to take part in the Immortal Sect selection as well, hoping to join the 4 immortal sects and learn some dermic daos that are different from their own countries. Princess Ming Yao was such a cultivator. Of course, in Su Zimo's opinion, apart from what this person said about learning different dermic daos, there should be another reason why the princes and princesses of the various immortal kingdoms chose to join the 4 immortal sections. It was to use the princes and princesses as a bridge to establish a connection with the 4 immortal sects, lest there were too many conflicts. The top factions of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain were way too massive and intertwined. They would try their best to control themselves and not cause too many conflicts. Of course, when he heard that, Su Zimo's confidence in the 4 immortal sects increased. Even as princes and princesses, there were no shortcuts to joining the 4 immortal sects. They had to take part in the Immortal Sect selection. That alone was enough to prove that the 4 immortal sects were indeed existences that could fight against the 3 immortal kingdoms. Su Zimo's gaze shifted to the 2 factions with many cultivators in unison and uniform attire. Those cultivators were disciplined and did not discuss and whisper to one another like the other cultivators. It was clear that they were an army of cultivators from the immortal kingdoms. Among them, there was a place where the army's attire was mainly scarlet. If he was not wrong, it should be the camp of the Yin-Yang Immortal Kingdom. From the looks of it, there were at least tens of thousands of them. The Black Immortal followed Su Zimo's gaze and smiled. Because Princess Scarlet Rainbow is here to take part in the Immortal Sect selection, the army of the Yin-Yang Immortal Kingdom is here as well to support her. Su Zimo nodded slightly and looked at the other side. The attire of the army in this camp was different from the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. If he was not wrong, it should be the Zixin Immortal Kingdom of the 3 immortal kingdoms. The Black Immortal said, apart from Princess Scarlet Rainbow, a prince of the Zixin Immortal Kingdom is also extremely strong and can be called a monster incarnate. He killed everyone in this valley and has yet to meet his match. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he asked, Prince Yunting? And no. The Black Immortal waved it off repeatedly. Prince Yunting is way too proud. He doesn't care to take part in the Immortal Sect selection, nor does he want to join the 4 immortal sections. An Earth Immortal at the side said emotionally, Prince Yunting once said that he could defeat all disciples of the 4 immortal sects of the same cultivation realm with his sword. That did sound like Yunting. Yunting was also the strongest opponent Su Zimo had encountered in the same cultivation realm since he ascended. Recalling the scenes of his fight with Yunting, Su Zimo could not help but smile and say casually, You're not old, but you sure are arrogant, huh? After saying that, the discussions around them suddenly went silent. Many cultivators turned around, and looked at Suzimo with strange gazes. When the Earth Immortal at the side saw that Suzimo was a little lost, as though he truly did not know, he sighed. Not long after Prince Yunting said that, around 500 years ago, he visited the four immortal sects and challenged the Earth Immortal experts of the four immortal sections. At that time, Prince Yunting was only a grade 7 Earth Immortal. He challenged a total of 32 Earth Immortal experts of the four immortal sects. At that point, the Earth Immortal paused for a moment. He won all 32 battles. Although he was only a grade 7 Earth Immortal, he was already invincible in the Earth Essence realm. How domineering is that? Although Prince Yunting did not take part in the fight for the Earth ranking, everyone knows that he's the #1 Earth Immortal. It was clear that the surrounding cultivators had heard of this matter before. Now that Yunting was mentioned, they were all shocked. This matter was indeed extremely sensational back then. However, Suzimo was in seclusion in Astral Sect all year round and had almost no contact with outsiders. Naturally, he had not heard of this matter. The Earth Immortal said, "Prince Yunting is not bragging. He does have the strength and qualifications. I heard that ever since Prince Yunting appeared, he has fought countless battles and roamed the 9 firmament immortal domain. He fought against countless paragons and monster incarnates and has never tasted defeat. What sort of a battle record is that?" "Indeed, impressive." Suzimo nodded slightly. Suzimo won the battle between the two of them in the Emperor's tomb. However, his remark was not perfunctory. The environment of the Emperor's tomb was special after all. Be it him or Yunting, neither of them released their full combat strength. If the two of them were to fight again, it would be hard to predict who would win. Suzimo recalled something and suddenly asked, "Yunting was already a grade 7 Earth Immortal 500 years ago. What's his cultivation now?" "No one knows about that." The Earth Immortal shook his head. "I reckon that he might have already cultivated to become a grade 9 Earth Immortal." Suzimo was silent. He had the Green Lotus True Body and sufficient cultivation resources. His cultivation speed was already extremely rare in history. To think that Yunting's cultivation speed would be even faster than his. He did not have any deep feud with Yunting. On the contrary, Suzimo had a good impression of Yunting. Although the two of them had a conflict and Yunting was proud and conceited, he had never bullied with numbers or hit someone when they were down. Suzimo still remembered everything that happened clearly. Just as the two of them were fighting, Fang Xian suddenly attacked him. However, Yunting ignored Suzimo's attacks and changed his target decisively, wanting to kill Fang Xian on the spot. Suzimo did not continue attacking Yunting and chose to turn to deal with Fang Xian as well. At that moment, the two of them formed a tacit understanding. Chapter 2107, 2107 Provocation? 2107 Provocation? The young Ruoxu that this person was referring to wore a white robe and sat on a bamboo chair. His posture was upright and his complexion was bronze. His face was defined and his gaze was bright as he looked at the water barrier below with a focused expression. The one on the right is Imperial Wind Temple and their leader is Heaven Immortal Green Peak. It's said that he's a strong contender for the top 10 of the next Heaven ranking. Before long, the Black Immortal introduced the situation of the four immortal sects to Suzimo. "Is there any way to take part in the immortal sect selection now?" Suzimo asked. "Now?" The Black Immortal was slightly stunned and could not understand what Suzimo meant. "The immortal sect selection this time round is about to end. You can only take part in the next one." He would have to wait another 100 years for the next immortal sect selection. Suzimo did not want to wait. He looked up at the 4 auspicious clouds floating in the skies and took a deep breath. Suddenly, he soared into the air and flew in the direction of the 4 immortal sections. Apart from the cultivators of the 4 immortal sects, even the army of cultivators from the 2 immortal kingdoms had to watch from the peak. Suzimo soared into the air and arrived above the heads of millions of cultivators, attracting many gazes. He did not mind being the center of attraction. Right now, he had the Trinity Auspicious Jade and was disguised as a skinny young man. No one could tell his background. Furthermore, if he wanted to take part in the Immortal Sect selection, he would have to attract the attention of this millions of cultivators sooner or later. There were also cultivators from the 4 Immortal Sects who noticed Zimo. Who's there? What are you doing up here? A few Earth Immortal cultivators of the Immortal Sects stood out and hollered. Something happened in between and I was delayed on the way. I want to take part in the Immortal Sect selection this time round. Exalted Immortals, please permit me. Zimo stopped in his tracks and raised his head slightly with cupped fists. After saying that, there was a momentary tranquility in the initially noisy coiling Dragon Mountain range. Immediately after, a commotion broke out mixed with mockery and ridicule. Does that person know what he's talking about? Haha, I'm dying of laughter. A grade 6 Earth Immortal has the courage to jump out and want to partake in the Immortal Sect selection. I'm already a grade 7 Earth Immortal, but I didn't even dare to take part. People should really know their own limits. That person looks sickly and his face is withered. He's dispirited, and I might be able to take his life if I push wind in his direction with my palm. Another grade 6 Earth Immortal declared proudly. The Black Immortal who spoke to Zimo initially was shocked as well. Some of the surrounding Earth Immortals shook their heads. I realized that this person was abnormal earlier on. He actually spouted nonsense and said that Prince Yunting was arrogant. That person might be delirious and was spouting nonsense. Initially, many cultivators were watching the battle. However, the appearance of this scene attracted the attention of all the cultivators and caused them to burst into laughter. The leaders of the 4 Immortal Sects, such as Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu, merely glanced at Zimo indifferently before retracting their gazes. A grade 6 Earth Immortal was not enough to attract their attention. Are you causing trouble? A grade 8 Earth Immortal of Heaven and Earth Academy stood out and looked at Zimo coldly, saying slowly, or perhaps you're provoking our 4 Immortal Sects. With this accusation, this grade 8 Earth Immortal could even strike to kill Zimo in public. Whoa. Many cultivators could sense the killing intent in that person's words and could smell a hint of blood as they cheered. Chapter 2108. 2108 Attention of Everyone. 2108 Attention of Everyone. Lu Wenbin. Yang Ruoxu of Heaven and Earth Academy said indifferently, just chase him away. There's no need to kill him. The grade 8 Earth Immortal named Lu Wenbin bowed hurriedly. You're not going to leave by yourself? Lu Wenbin turned to Zimo and hollered coldly. Zimo said in a deep voice, I'm not here to cause trouble or provoke you. I just want to take part in the Immortal Sect selection. Ha 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 ha. Another series of laughter sounded from the mountain range below. Humph. Lu Wenbin's expression darkened as he released the might of his spirit consciousness towards Zimo, saying coldly, get the hell down. Lu Wenbin's spirit consciousness pressure did not have much offensive power, nor did he use his full strength. He merely wanted to make Zimo suffer and embarrass himself in front of everyone. Although he only released the power of a level 6 Earth Essence Realm Spirit Consciousness, as a disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy, he cultivated an extremely famous spirit consciousness cultivation technique. Naturally, his spirit consciousness was much purer and more condensed than other cultivators. He could almost see the sickly young man falling from midair onto the mountain range in a wretched manner. However, when his spirit consciousness descended, Zimo did not dodge or avoid. He stood in midair motionlessly, as though he was not affected at all. This scene made Lu Wenbin feel embarrassed and infuriated. Even the laughter from below sounded piercing to him, as though someone was mocking him for not being able to deal with a grade 6 Earth Immortal. Get the hell down, Lu Wenbin shouted once more. This time round, he had no intention of holding back and released the full power of a grade 8 Earth Immortal Spirit Consciousness, wanting to blast Zimo down from midair. Zimo's expression did not change and his body swayed slightly. However, he still stood in midair and looked in the direction of the 4 Immortal Sects with a resolute gaze. Oh! This time round, It attracted the attention of the other cultivators of the four immortal sections. The fact that he could withstand the spirit consciousness pressure of a grade 8 Earth Immortal meant that the essence spirit realm of this grade 6 Earth Immortal was definitely not too low. It was at least at the level of a grade 8 Earth Immortal. He was only at the level 6 Earth Essence realm, but his essence spirit was at the level 8 Earth Essence realm. That was rare. The laughter in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range gradually died down as well. The scene before them had exceeded everyone's expectations, and the scene they were looking forward to did not happen. This person seems to have some tricks up his sleeve. Foo-foo, what's wrong with that? The grade 8 Earth Immortal of Heaven and Earth Academy did not even truly attack and merely released a single spirit consciousness pressure. If he had truly attacked this person, he would have been crippled a long time ago. That's right. If this person pushes his luck and angers Heaven and Earth Academy, not only will he be embarrassed, he might even lose his life. Many cultivators pouted and shook their heads with disdainful expressions. Indeed, Lu Wenbin's expression turned extremely terrible. He had attacked twice, but could not chase Su Zimo down. At that moment, he felt his face burn. Not only did he embarrass himself, this might even affect Heaven and Earth Academy. If word were to spread that disciples of Heaven and Earth Academy could not even suppress an ordinary grade 6 Earth Immortal, it would be utterly humiliating, and he did not wish for that to happen. Since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for not giving you a chance. With a cold expression, Lu Wenbin slapped his storage bag and a flying sword soared into the skies, turning into a streak of light that circled around him. This person looks interesting. Why don't we ask him over? Heaven Immortal White Sea of Flying Immortal Sect waved his folding fan gently and said with a smile, I'm a little bored from watching this Immortal Sect selection. Sure, let's let him over. Heaven Immortal Green Peak of Imperial Wind Temple smirked and said slowly with a mocking look in his eyes. This? Lu Wenbin was stunned. Although he was a disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy, now that two Heaven Immortals had spoken, it was not appropriate for him to attack without permission. He turned to look at his senior brother, Yang Ruoxu. Yang Ruoxu remained silent as a silent acknowledgement. Helpless, Lu Wenbin could only glare at Su Zimo viciously before returning to his formation. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and continued rising into the air. Arriving before the four immortal sects, he cupped his fists in thanks to Heaven Immortal White Sea and the others. This time round, all the cultivators of the four immortal sects looked at Su Zimo. Even the four Heaven Immortal experts, Heaven Immortal White Sea, Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu, and Heaven Immortal Green Peak looked at Su Zimo. This was an unimaginable invisible pressure. If it was anyone else, they would definitely feel uneasy against experts of the four immortal sects and four Heaven Immortals who had been famous for many years and whose cultivation realms far surpassed theirs. The gazes of the four Heaven Immortals were like daggers. It was only logical if one was at a loss and drenched in sweat. However, Su Zimo stood in front of the four immortal sects with a calm expression the entire time. He did not avoid the gazes of the four Heaven Immortals, nor did he look guilty. Everything else aside, his courage and boldness surpassed ordinary people. Heaven Abyss nodded slightly with a hint of approval in his deep eyes. Although Heaven Immortal White Sea, Yang Ruoxu, and Heaven Immortal Green Peak did not say anything, they praised internally. Up till this point of the Immortal Sect selection, the number of cultivators in the valley decreased, and there were only slightly more than 1,000 left. The frequency of the battles gradually decreased as well. Many cultivators focused their attention on Su Zimo. He was the center of attention. Everyone wanted to see what this seemingly weak young man was up to. You want to take part in the Immortal Sect selection. Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan gently and asked with a smile, Do you know the cultivation realms of the cultivators taking part in the Immortal Sect selection? My cultivation realm isn't too high, but my methods aren't weak. Su Zimo said. How arrogant. He truly doesn't know his place. Many cultivators scoffed. To others, Su Zimo's words naturally sounded like bragging. However, in reality, he was already being humble. Do you know that there's only a month left for the Immortal Sect selection and the number of people is decreasing? It'll also be increasingly difficult for you to obtain enough Coiling Dragon badges. Heaven Abyss asked. Suzimo said, Exalted Immortal, you're right. However, the less time there is, the fewer people there will be. At the same time, it means that the remaining cultivators will have more Coiling Dragon badges in their storage bags. If I'm lucky and manage to defeat dozens of people, I will be able to obtain enough Coiling Dragon badges. The initial 180,000 Coiling Dragon badges were now in the hands of 1,000-odd people. Some Earth Immortal experts might have hundreds or even thousands of Coiling Dragon badges in their storage bags. If Suzimo could defeat them, he could naturally take over all the Coiling Dragon badges in their possession. Suddenly, young Ruaksu spoke, You're right, but have you ever thought that the remaining 1,000-odd Earth Immortal experts only managed to survive till now after more than 10 months of bloodshed? Indeed, there are many Coiling Dragon badges in the storage bags of these Earth Immortals. However, these people are not to be trifled with either. Young Ruaksu was not wrong. There were not many Grade 7 Earth Immortals left in the valley right now, and almost all of them were Grade 8 or 9 Earth Immortals. As time passed by, the remaining Earth Immortals in the valley would become stronger and more terrifying. Young Ruaksu said, You're not old. To be able to cultivate to this realm, your talent should not be bad. Why don't you wait to take part in the Immortal Sect selection 100 years later? At that time, you can be more confident of your odds as well. Chapter 2109. 2109 Surrounded by Wolves. 2109 Surrounded by Wolves. Suzimo could tell that young Ruaksu was reminding him out of goodwill. If not for the pressure and some invisible threats, Suzimo would not have been in a hurry to take part in the Immortal Sect selection. However, he was different from others. He did not know what changes would happen if he waited for 100 years. Suzimo was silent for a moment before saying with cupped fists, I still want to take part in the Immortal Sect selection this time round. Exalted Immortals, please agree to it. Humph. In the crowd, Lu Wenbin sneered and muttered, You don't know what's good for you. Suddenly, Heaven Immortal Green Peak said, It's not impossible to take part in the Immortal Sect selection midway. However, there's a condition. What condition? Suzimo asked. Heaven Immortal Green Peak said slowly, You can't bring a Coiling Dragon badge in. All the cultivators participating in the Immortal Sect selection had Coiling Dragon badges that could save their lives at critical moments. Despite that, 30,000 cultivators were dead after half a year. There were even more cultivators who were severely injured with destroyed physical bodies. In the battles, there were often cultivators who hesitated and died before they could even take out their Coiling Dragon badges, or those who were killed by attacks that came out of nowhere. The fights in the Immortal Sect selection were not restrained. They were filled with bloodshed and killing. The fact that he can't bring the Coiling Dragon badge into the valley means that he won't have any life preservation methods. Not necessarily. He can defeat the others and steal their Coiling Dragon badges. Fufu, the people remaining are all ruthless. It won't be so easy to snatch a badge. If that person is unlucky and lands beside some ruthless person when he enters the valley, he'll die the moment he goes down. After Heaven Immortal Green Peak said that, a commotion broke out in the crowd. Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan gently and said leisurely, That's a good suggestion. If you take part in the Immortal Sect selection midway, you'll have to be different from others and bear greater danger. That's more fair. Although Heaven Abyss and young Ruaksu did not express anything, they were in silent acknowledgement as well. Participating in the Immortal Sect selection midway was a violation of the rules. If one wanted to violate the rules, they would have to undertake greater risks. No problem, Suzimo said. Is he crazy? He even agreed to that? I think he hasn't experienced the bloodshed of the Immortal Sect selection and doesn't know how terrifying it is inside. He truly doesn't know his place. Heaven Abyss and young Ruaksu frowned slightly as well. There was another reason why the two of them acknowledged it earlier on. They hoped that Suzimo would back off and come again next time. To think that Suzimo would agree to it without hesitation. All right. Heaven Immortal White Sea closed his folding fan and praised loudly, "Courageous. I like it." Heaven Immortal Green Peak revealed a hint of interest as well. By now, he had looked at the people in the valley for half a year and was bored of them. Now that someone who was not afraid of death had appeared, it was unknown what sort of ripples he might bring about when he was thrown into the valley. At that moment, no one realized it. Throwing Suzimo into the valley would not bring about ripples, but raging tides. The impact of the subsequent development of this matter would be so great that it exceeded everyone's expectations. Heaven Immortal Green Peak stood up and asked in a deep voice, "If you're prepared, I'll send you into the valley." "Thank you." Suzimo nodded. Heaven Immortal Green Peak waved his sleeves, and a tremendous essence chi enveloped Suzimo's body, carrying him rapidly into a spot on the water barrier with ripples forming. When Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu saw that, they frowned and glared at Heaven Immortal Green Peak at the side. Others might not be able to tell, but both of them could tell that Heaven Immortal Green Peak was clearly up to no good by choosing this landing spot for Suzimo. Yang Ruoxu sneered, "Green Peak, what's the difference between your move and killing him directly?" "Haha." Green Peak burst into laughter. "That's not for sure. I can tell that this lad must definitely have some qualities superior to others for him to be this courageous." "That's more interesting." Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan and said with a smile. The hundreds of cultivators on Coiling Dragon Mountain Range stared at Suzimo's landing spot as well and gradually realized what was going on. Where did that person land? The key to how long this person can live is his landing spot. If he lands in an uninhabited area, he might be able to last a few days. If he lands beside some ruthless person, Look, he seems to have landed on. Ah, he fell into a crowd. The cultivators in the mountain range exclaimed. It's Lai Feng and the others. They're the only group left in the valley with more than 100 people, right? It should be. The other groups have less than 10 people remaining. That person is doomed. He won't even have a chance to escape if he falls into the group of Lai Feng. As the Immortal Sect selection advanced, the remaining cultivators in the valley would often choose to join forces with others and form groups to try their best to hold out till the end. Apart from the fact that their leader, Lai Feng, was strong, the reason why this group could last till now was because they were smart. When they encountered true top-tier experts such as Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Prince Yunlei, even if they had the advantage in numbers, they would avoid the battle. Under Lai Feng's lead, the group searched for cultivators whom they could deal with absolute confidence. Some lone cultivators that were not strong overall would be devoured mercilessly by Lai Feng's group. The cultivators watching from the mountain range praised that Lai Feng was cunning as a fox and savage as a wolf. Suzimo was only a grade 6 Earth Immortal. One could imagine his outcome if he was surrounded by this group. Coiling Dragon Valley. The 100-odd cultivators, led by Lai Feng, were resting on a mountain peak. From this position, one could look into the distance and observe any activity from all directions. If they encountered any strong foes that they could not afford to offend, they could retreat at any moment. Right then, the water barrier in the skies shook. Right on the heels of that, a faint blue figure descended rapidly from the skies. Someone else is here? The cultivators scattered all over the peak looked up. Lai Feng narrowed his eyes as well and released his spirit consciousness, scanning the person. Level 6 Earth Essence Realm. Lai Feng grinned and declared, "Brothers, there's fresh meat." The cultivators in the valley did not know that Suzimo did not have a Coiling Dragon badge with him. When Lai Feng's group saw this lone cultivator who was a grade 6 Earth Immortal, there was no way they would let him off. Many cultivators stood up one after another and looked at the figure in midair with ferocious gazes, as though they wanted to skin Suzimo alive. From midair, Suzimo looked down and naturally caught sight of Lai Feng and the others. However, after he passed through the water barrier, he was shrouded by a faint blue barrier that enveloped his body. He could not control his body and could only let himself fall to the top of the mountain peak. He was surrounded by wolves. The moment Zimo landed on the ground, the faint blue barrier on his body dissipated silently. The battle was on the verge. Chapter 2110, 2110 Divine Powers. 2110 Divine Powers. When Lai Feng saw that someone was already prepared to attack, he sat on the stone and waved it off. Don't worry, he can't run. Let me ask him a few questions first. Zimo's spirit consciousness moved, and he scanned his surroundings. There were more than 100 Earth Immortals, and most of them were Grade 9 Earth Immortals. Of course, he could fight. However, there was no need. He was a Grade 6 Earth Immortal, and would definitely have to expose many trump cards in order to fight this group of people. He was here for the Immortal Sect selection, and all he had to do was obtain enough Coiling Dragon badges. There were millions of cultivators watching outside, and he did not want to expose too much. Furthermore, he had just arrived and was unfamiliar with his surroundings. There was no need for him to fight this group of people head-on. A Grade 6 Earth Immortal like you is here to take part in the Immortal Sect selection. Lai Feng looked askance at Zimo and raised his brow. Yes, Zimo replied. However, I don't have a Coiling Dragon badge with me. No Coiling Dragon badge? Who would believe you? You want to bluff your way through with such nonsense? The surrounding cultivators burst into laughter with relaxed expressions. Lai Feng frowned slightly and asked again, the Immortal Sect selection is almost over. Why did you only come in now? It's exactly because I'm entering midway that I have no Coiling Dragon badge. Zimo did not hide anything and told the truth. Lai Feng sneered with a disdainful expression. Naturally, he did not believe Zimo's words and was about to wave his hand for the surrounding cultivators to attack. Zimo's gaze intensified, and he suddenly stomped his foot. Boom, boom. Instantly, the ground shook. At that moment, the entire mountain shook slightly and countless rocks rolled down, causing dust to fly everywhere. Caught off guard, the many cultivators on the mountain peak staggered and jumped in shock. In that instant, Zimo moved and charged out of the encirclement of many cultivators at an astonishing speed. When those cultivators saw that Zimo was only a Grade 6 Earth Immortal, they naturally underestimated him and did not expect him to escape. Therefore, everyone's formation was a little scattered. The mountain shook violently and everyone's positions became much more scattered. Zimo seized the opportunity to break through the encirclement of more than 10 people and sped forward. Hold him back. Lai Feng was enraged and roared. The surrounding cultivators reacted instantly and moved one after another, summoning various dermic treasures to block in front of Zimo. These cultivators who could remain in the valley were naturally not easy to deal with. Some of them released movement techniques, dermic treasures, immortal arts, and various divine powers. Although Zimo broke out of the first layer of encirclement, he was stopped by the cultivators charging over from the side before long. He was blocked at the front and pursued at the back. Many divine powers and dermic treasures descended from midair. Just as it seemed like Zimo had no way out, his figure flashed and he vanished from the spot. By the time he reappeared, he was already outside the encirclement. All the divine powers and dermic treasures missed. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Fufu, that person's reaction is quite fast. However, it's useless. He still can't escape. The difference in numbers and cultivation realm is too great. It's not so easy to break out of the encirclement. And where is he? Just as many cultivators were discussing, they realized that Zimo had suddenly vanished. Look, over there. He seems to have escaped. What happened just now? A commotion broke out in the crowd. Above the mountain range, above the 4 auspicious clouds. When they saw Zimo's movement technique in the valley, the eyes of Heaven Immortal White Sea, Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu, and Heaven Immortal Green Peak lit up. This movement technique is not bad. Although it can't compare to teleportation, it's similar to Nether Swap. Heaven Abyss nodded slightly. Heaven Immortal Green Peak shook his head. He only caught them off guard. If the other party is prepared, this movement technique won't be of much use. Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan and said leisurely, "From what I know, Lai Feng has backup plans everywhere he goes. The true danger has yet to come." Yang Ruoxu said, "No matter what, from his performance so far, be it in terms of reaction, attack, or judgment, he's not bad. If it was anyone else, they might not even be able to break out of the first layer of encirclement if they were surrounded by Lai Feng's group." Coiling Dragon Valley. After Su Zimo broke out of the encirclement, he sped with all his might and released boundless golden light, ethereal wings, heavenly feet, and many other divine powers and secret skills. Electric arcs coiled around ethereal wings and created a thunderstorm with every flap. Those were Zephyr Thunder wings from the Void Thunder manual. Although Su Zimo was only a grade 6 Earth Immortal, with so many secret skills and divine powers released, his speed had risen to an extremely terrifying level and he could travel 500 kilometers instantly. Despite the fact that the ones chasing behind were all grade 8 and 9 Earth Immortals, the distance between them and Su Zimo was gradually increasing. Even Lai Feng and the others with the fastest movement techniques could only hang behind Su Zimo temporarily such that they did not fall behind. Lai Feng glared at Su Zimo's back view with a cold expression and smirked. Suddenly, he conjured hand seals and his spirit consciousness moved. At the same time, Su Zimo, who was speeding forward, felt a sense of danger. He stopped in his tracks as though he was possessed and changed directions, sprinting to the other side. Right in front of the area he was about to pass by originally, a gigantic net appeared on the ground. It was coiled with spikes and shone with dark light. It was clearly smeared with poison. If Su Zimo had not changed directions, he would have been captured by the poison net. But now that Su Zimo's direction had changed, the poison net instantly missed. Lai Feng frowned and harumphed coldly. However, he did not stop and continued chasing. As Su Zimo sprinted, his heart skipped a beat and he changed directions again without warning, charging towards a towering ancient tree at the side. Bang! The towering ancient tree was snapped by Su Zimo. The many cultivators watching outside the valley did not know what Su Zimo was doing. To everyone, such an action was completely unnecessary and would reduce their speed instead. But soon, everyone noticed something unusual. After the towering ancient tree broke, a figure was sent flying along with it. He spat out blood in midair and landed in the mud far away with a dispirited expression and feeble breathing. This was also a killing move set up by Lai Feng. This assassin was lying in ambush nearby and was fused with the towering ancient tree such that no one could detect him. To think that Su Zimo would send this assassin flying before the latter could attack. That seemingly simple collision shattered all the bones in the assassin's body by Su Zimo. The assassin was scared out of his wits when he saw Su Zimo chasing after him. Hurriedly, he summoned his coiling dragon badge and a vortex sucked him away, leaving behind a coiling dragon badge. Su Zimo did not stop at all. He picked up the coiling dragon badge and continued speeding. Before long, he arrived at the foot of the mountain, leaving Lai Feng and the others behind. Chapter 2111, 2111 Cat and Mouse? 2111 Cat and Mouse? Heavens, that person's movement technique is so fast. He managed to escape just like that? It's not that easy. The toll on him after releasing so many divine powers and secret skills is unimaginable. If they continue hunting him, he will die the moment his essence chi is depleted. This time round, the millions of cultivators on Coiling Dragon Mountain Range were attracted by the scene in the valley. Out of sympathy for the weak, many cultivators were secretly nervous and worried for Su Zimo. In midair, Heaven Abyss shook his head. This can't continue. This area is filled with forests and shrubs. He can't release his speed and won't be able to escape the pursuit of Lai Feng and the others completely. Right then, Su Zimo, who was in the valley, suddenly transformed after turning around the foot of a mountain. He shrank into a tiny ant and crawled slowly through the cracks of the rocks. 72 transformations? Yang Ruoxu frowned slightly and murmured. This choice was a little risky. If he used the 72 transformations and transformed into flora or insects, he could naturally hide his tracks. However, it also meant that he would lose his previous burst speed. After transforming into an ant, he had to crawl on the ground like the other ants. Once seen through, it was equivalent to no way out, and he would fall into danger once more. Before long, Lai Feng and the others caught up to this place, but realized that they had lost track of Su Zimo completely. What happened? Someone asked. Lai Feng frowned and said deeply, "There's no way he could have escaped so quickly. Search carefully and see if he's hiding nearby." Everyone released their spirit consciousnesses hurriedly and scanned the vicinity carefully, not missing any birds, beasts, flora, or insects. However, no one discovered Su Zimo's location. During this period of time, the spirit consciousnesses of cultivators swept past the ant that Su Zimo transformed into, but they did not notice anything unusual. Under normal circumstances, if Su Zimo used the greater divine power, the 72 transformations, although he transformed into an ant, he would definitely reveal an opening with traces of divine powers and aura. However, Su Zimo was using the Trinity Auspicious Jade right now. His transformation could practically hide from the entire world. After lingering for a long time, more than 100 cultivators caught up to them, but Lai Feng and the others could not find Su Zimo. "Leader Lai Feng, that person must have escaped far away," someone said. Lai Feng cursed, "How unlucky. Where did this lad come from? I was a little careless. If we meet again, I'll definitely not let him off." "What should we do now?" another person asked. "Let's leave this place first." Glancing into the distance, Lai Feng seemed wary as he waved his hand and left with the 100-odd cultivators. Before long, the forest returned to normal. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Millions of cultivators watched everything with dumbfounded expressions. When Lai Feng and the others searched the area earlier on, everyone could clearly see through the water barrier that the ant that Su Zimo conjured was not far away from Lai Feng and the others. However, both parties passed just like that. Many cultivators heaved a sigh of relief. This outcome had not only exceeded the expectations of the millions of cultivators in the mountain range, even the cultivators of the 4 immortal sects in midair were surprised. Making a move to break out of the encirclement, dodging the killing dangers, knocking away the assassin who was lying in ambush, obtaining the coiling dragon badge, and eventually hiding from the entire world. His series of actions felt astonishing even at this point. Not only did that person who was bound to die not die, he even obtained a coiling dragon badge. This also meant that as long as this person was careful, he could at least survive in the valley. Not bad. Heaven Abyss nodded slightly. Although Heaven Abyss did not say much, it was already rare for him to give such praise. Yang Ruoxu nodded as well. Everything else aside, that reaction and judgment is enough to tell that this lad's talent is indeed extraordinary. No one outside the valley knew that the methods displayed by Su Zimo were merely the tip of the iceberg. Or rather, it could not even be considered as the tip of the iceberg. What a pity. Heaven Immortal White Sea shook his head and chuckled. That person will still be eliminated. Why? Heaven Immortal Green Peak asked. Look, who's that? Heaven Immortal White Sea pointed at a figure not far away from Su Zimo on the water barrier. Everyone looked and saw that the figure was dressed in red martial arts attire. She wore red cloud boots and rode on a sword. The ponytail behind her head fluttered slightly. It was one of the strongest Earth Immortals in the Immortal Sect selection this time round, Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Yang Ruoxu shook his head gently with a look of pity. This person's luck is bad. Right after he got out of the encirclement of those wolves, he's now targeted by Scarlet Rainbow. Heaven Immortal White Sea smiled. After more than half a year of observation, among the remaining Earth Immortals, Princess Scarlet Rainbow is number 1 in terms of movement technique speed. No matter how fast this person is, he can't compare to Princess Scarlet Rainbow. We'll be able to watch a good show of cat and mouse soon. Coiling Dragon Valley. A long time after Lai Feng and the others left, the ant that Su Zimo transformed into reverted to his human form and revealed his sickly young man appearance. At the same time, Suzimo's heart skipped a beat as he looked in another direction. A red light was speeding over from the other side and arrived before him in the blink of an eye. It paused in midair and looked down at Suzimo. Suzimo frowned slightly. Earlier on, he sensed that someone was spying in the vicinity as well. Because it was only a single person, he was not bothered and was prepared to snatch the person's coiling dragon badges. However, he had not expected that this was one of the strongest Earth Immortals in the valley, Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Princess Scarlet Rainbow was a grade 9 Earth Immortal. Even if she could not compare to Yunting, her talent and combat strength would not be bad. Furthermore, there was a difference of 3 cultivation realms between them. If they were to fight, it would be troublesome, and he would have to expose too much. Hee. Just as Suzimo was pondering, Princess Scarlet Rainbow suddenly laughed. You sure are bold. A grade 6 Earth Immortal dares to take part in the Immortal Sect selection and even transformed into a little bug to avoid a calamity. Princess Scarlet Rainbow had witnessed everything earlier on. The reason why Lai Feng and the others left so quickly was because they sensed her existence. Hand your coiling dragon badges to me, and I won't hurt you. Princess Scarlet Rainbow chuckled. You look sickly. If I attack casually, you might die. Expressionlessly, Suzimo cupped his fists. Pardon me for not complying. With that said, Suzimo did not waste his breath and turned to flee, releasing boundless golden light, heavenly feet, ethereal wings, zephyr thunder wings, and many other divine powers and secret skills. He pushed his speed to its limits right away. Hee. Princess Scarlet Rainbow could not help but laugh. Interesting. To think that you want to compete in speed with me. If I can let you escape, I'll be damned. As she said that, Princess Scarlet Rainbow rode on her flying sword and transformed into a scarlet streak of light, chasing after Suzimo. Princess Scarlet Rainbow Long had enough coiling dragon badges. After spending more than half a year in the valley, she was already getting tired of killing. Now that a puny grade 6 Earth Immortal wanted to compete in movement techniques with her, she felt that it was extremely interesting. The corners of Princess Scarlet Rainbow's mouth curled up slightly as she revealed a smile. A mocking look flashed through her eyes as she decided to have fun with this puny grade 6 Earth Immortal. Chapter 2112, 2112 Sudden Speed Burst. 2112 Sudden Speed Burst. Suzimo channeled his essence spirit and sprinted with the help of many divine powers and secret skills. He was a grade 6 Earth Immortal. However, with the augmentation of boundless golden light, heavenly feet, ethereal wings, and zephyr thunder wings, the speed released was something that even most grade 9 Earth Immortals could not catch up to. Yet, after a while, Suzimo realized that he could not shake off Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Princess Scarlet Rainbow's figure was almost one with the flying sword beneath her feet. Speeding through the air, one could only see a streak of scarlet light flash at an astonishing speed. Even the many cultivators watching outside could easily lose track of Princess Scarlet Rainbow if they were careless. When Suzimo saw that he could not shake off Princess Scarlet Rainbow for the time being, he repeated the same trick. Channeling the Trinity Auspicious Jade, he transformed into a chickadee and mixed into a group of chickadees, traveling through the forest. Princess Scarlet Rainbow behind him seemed to have vanished as well. Suddenly, a warning flashed in Suzimo's mind. A shadow shrouded down from above, and a gigantic goshawk swooped down. Its gaze was sharp as a sword as it glared at Suzimo, who was among the chickadees, and grabbed down viciously. The surrounding chickadees dispersed in fright. Knowing that he was exposed, Suzimo reverted to his human form instantly and continued speeding into the distance. Hee. Princess Scarlet Rainbow smiled gently and revealed herself, chasing after him once more. The two of them continued dueling. During this period of time, Suzimo made use of the Trinity Auspicious Jade to conjure various birds, beasts, flora, and insects. However, he could not escape the detection of Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Princess Scarlet Rainbow transformed as well and hunted Suzimo with all sorts of living beings. The complexity of the changes was dazzling. Although the chase and duel between the two of them did not take place head-on, it was even more exciting and dangerous to the outsiders. Many cultivators on Coiling Dragon Mountain Range widened their eyes and held their breaths. Even so, many cultivators would often lose track of Suzimo and Princess Scarlet Rainbow. From time to time, shouts could be heard from the crowd asking for their location. Heaven Immortal Green Peak clapped and laughed. This lad is truly unlucky to have met Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Princess Scarlet Rainbow sure seems cheery. To think that she would play with this lad for so long. Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his fan and smiled. Yang Ruoxu shook his head gently and said regrettably, "It's already not easy for this lad to achieve such a movement technique as a grade 6 Earth Immortal. Unfortunately, he's targeted by Princess Scarlet Rainbow." Within the valley, Suzimo realized that he had already been locked onto by Princess Scarlet Rainbow's aura. Even with the unpredictable trinity Auspicious Jade, he could not break free from her. Suzimo stopped in his tracks and turned around. Hee. Princess Scarlet Rainbow appeared and looked at Suzimo with a playful expression, smiling. "Puny grade 6 Earth Immortal, why aren't you running anymore? Princess, why are you chasing after me?" Suzimo frowned. "I've just arrived in this valley and I only have a single Coiling Dragon badge with me. It's totally insignificant to you." When Suzimo arrived at the valley, he was hunted down by Lai Feng's group before he did anything. Now that he was targeted by Princess Scarlet Rainbow, he could not help but look impatient and his tone did not have much respect. Princess Scarlet Rainbow pouted her lips slightly. "Puny grade 6 Earth Immortal, who do you think you're talking to? Let me tell you, I might not even be bothered to chase someone even if they beg me to." "Is that so? I'm truly flattered," Suzimo said indifferently. Princess Scarlet Rainbow waved it off magnanimously. "Initially, I wanted to play with you and snatch your Coiling Dragon badge away. However, along the way, I saw that you are truly talented. All right, let me give you an opportunity. From this day forth, you'll follow me and be my lackey." No, a guard sounds better." "Of course, I won't mistreat you either. I'll help you get enough Coiling Dragon badges. After that, you'll join the same immortal sect as me and listen to me, understand?" Princess Scarlet Rainbow spoke to herself and even reminded Suzimo as though things had already panned out. Suppressing the urge to roll his eyes, Suzimo said in a deep voice, "Princess, you're overestimating me. I'm eccentric and unruly, so I can't be someone's guard. Please find someone else." Having finished his words, Suzimo left without even turning back. Swoosh! In a flash, Princess Scarlet Rainbow arrived before Suzimo and blocked his path. "Hey, what's wrong with you?" Princess Scarlet Rainbow said seductively. "From the looks of it, you seem to have yet to recover from a serious illness. You definitely lack tonics. At that time, I'll help you look for some treasures in the palace to nourish your body. I'll definitely be able to nourish you until you're fair and chubby. Princess, if there's nothing else, don't stand in the way." Suzimo's tone turned increasingly impatient. When Princess Scarlet Rainbow saw that the soft approach did not work, she was a little angry as well. Grinding a pair of petite canine teeth, she threatened, "You really don't know what's good for you. You can't beat me nor can you escape. Do you believe that I'll snatch your Coiling Dragon badge right now? Is that so?" Suzimo cupped his fists and said indifferently, "Princess, farewell. We'll meet again if fate allows it." With that said, Suzimo released many divine powers and secret skills once more and sped into the distance. Princess Scarlet Rainbow sneered, "You still want to escape?" Before her sentence was finished, Princess Scarlet Rainbow transformed into another streak of light and chased after Suzimo. This time round, she did not want to continue playing. She used her full strength and the distance between them closed slowly. Suddenly, a pair of gigantic golden wings grew behind Suzimo. They shone brightly and were filled with a powerful divine power aura. Phew! The pair of golden wings flapped, creating a storm. Instantly, Suzimo's speed increased exponentially. In the blink of an eye, he vanished from the spot and transformed into a golden streak of light that tore through the air. The Rock Wings were one of Suzumo's strongest trump cards, and he had not intended to expose them initially. However, Princess Scarlet Rainbow was truly troublesome to deal with. Suzumo was unwilling to get entangled with her and released his innate divine power to flee far away. Princess Scarlet Rainbow was stunned, but she reacted quickly and released all her blood chi to chase. However, not long after, she lost track of Suzumo completely. She had actually lost him? Princess Scarlet Rainbow stood in midair in a daze with a lost expression. For a moment, she could not accept the truth. What was going on? What happened earlier on? How did that little guard gain a sudden speed burst? Princess Scarlet Rainbow was puzzled. Initially, she thought that this was a game of cat and mouse. To think that the rat would suddenly grow wings and fly away. Even the crowd outside the valley was in an uproar, let alone Princess Scarlet Rainbow, who was involved. Where is he? Where did he go? I don't know. He disappeared instantly. A commotion broke out. Even the eyes of the 4 Heaven Immortal experts in the skies lit up. This lad's movement technique is truly... Heaven Immortal Whitesea hesitated. This movement technique could no longer be described as extraordinary. All right. Heaven Abyss nodded slightly, and a smile appeared on his cold face. Yang Ruoxu revealed a look of admiration as well. Even Heaven Immortal Green Peak, who threw Suzumo into the crowd, had a change in attitude. Chapter 2113. 2113. Who is this lad? 2113. Who is this lad? He's only good at escaping. I don't think he's that capable. Lu Wenbin of Heaven and Earth Academy muttered at the back. Previously, he had a short conflict with Suzumo and was embarrassed. Naturally, he disliked Suzumo no matter what. Yang Ruoxu shook his head gently and asked, "Isn't it impressive for someone at the level 6 Earth Essence realm to possess such a movement technique and even surpass Princess Scarlet Rainbow? Can you compare to him?" Yang Ruoxu's words had a hint of lecturing in them. In reality, he was telling Lu Wenbin to be humble and not be arrogant. Lu Wenbin was indignant, and his face flushed red as he argued, "Senior brother, you can't say that. What's the use of his movement technique no matter how fast he is? This is the Immortal Sect selection, not a trial of movement technique. Back when I was selected to enter the academy, I relied on my own combat strength to fight my way out. Furthermore, the rules of the Immortal Sect selection are clear. One requires sufficient coiling dragon badges to become the final victors. Even if he can survive till the end with that movement technique, he won't be able to join the 4 immortal sects without the coiling dragon badges." Heaven Immortal Whitesea chuckled. "Your junior brother isn't wrong." Yang Ruoxu remained silent. If the person in the valley could not obtain enough coiling dragon badges, the rules of the Immortal Sect selection could not be broken no matter how much he admired this talent. Within the valley. After a while, Princess Scarlet Rainbow gradually snapped out of her stupor and could not help but stomp her feet. Grinding her petite canine teeth, she said angrily, "Run then. There's only a month left. I don't believe that I won't be able to catch you in this valley." With that said, Princess Scarlet Rainbow left as well. On the other side, after Suzumo broke free from the entanglement of Princess Scarlet Rainbow, he changed directions a few times before slowing down. His goal was to get his hands on coiling dragon badges. There was only a month left. That was enough time. This stage was unlike the initial stage of the Immortal Sect selection, where cultivators could be encountered everywhere and battles were fought constantly. Right now, there were only slightly more than 1,000 people left. Even if he searched everywhere, he might not find people. For example, some cultivators who had already obtained enough coiling dragon badges could choose to hide in a secluded spot out of caution and appear only when time was almost up. It was even more impossible to find cultivators as such. After circling the valley for almost half a day, Suzumo finally encountered another cultivator. It was a lone cultivator, and his cultivation was at the level 7 Earth Essence realm. This time round, Suzumo did not escape. This was the type of cultivator he was looking for. A lone target whose cultivation was not high. He could get rid of this person with ease and snatch his coiling dragon badges without having to expose too many methods. When the Grade 7 Earth Immortal opposite saw Suzimo, he suddenly became extremely nervous and wary. However, after checking Suzimo's cultivation realm, he heaved a sigh of relief. To think that I would encounter a Grade 6 Earth Immortal here. I'm truly lucky. The Grade 7 Earth Immortal looked at Suzimo calmly and pouted. Lad, hand over your coiling dragon badges and I'll spare your life. All right, I'll spare your life, Suzimo said as well. Before his sentence was finished, he had already charged over in a flash. The moment the word life was said, Suzimo had already arrived before the Grade 7 Earth Immortal. It was too fast. The distance between the two of them was extremely close. The Grade 7 Earth Immortal was shocked and only had time to say a single word before his remaining words were blocked by the surging aura. Instantly, the Grade 7 Earth Immortal had an illusion. It was not a Grade 6 Earth Immortal that was charging over. Instead, it was a terrifying, ancient, ferocious beast that wanted to devour him in a single mouthful. The ancient, ferocious beast extended its menacing claws and grabbed down at him. At that moment, it was already too late to condense divine powers and immortal arts. He did not even have time to take out the dermic treasures in his storage bag. The Grade 7 Earth Immortal could only raise his arm instinctively to defend. Bang! Suzimo's palm landed on the person's arms. Crack! Right on the heels of that, the sound of bones cracking echoed. The person's arms were snapped by Suzimo's palm and a tremendous force broke through the obstruction of his arms, landing on his chest and sending him flying dozens of feet away. As the Grade 7 Earth Immortal was sent flying, Suzimo followed him closely behind with a cold gaze. Initially, this person wanted to consume some elixir pills to stabilize his injuries before escaping from this place. However, he was scared out of his wits when he met with Suzimo's gaze. He hurriedly took out his coiling dragon badge and activated the protective barrier on it, allowing himself to be dragged out of the valley by the vortex of the water barrier. After that person left, his storage bag with the coiling dragon badges landed in the valley and exploded. Dozens of coiling dragon badges fell out and floated in midair. Suzimo waved his sleeves and put away the dozens of coiling dragon badges. With an unchanged expression, he turned to leave. Given his capabilities, it was naturally extremely easy for him to kill that person earlier on and snatch the coiling dragon badges. However, the two of them met by chance and had no grudges. Suzimo was not someone who killed indiscriminately. If he took someone's life just for the sake of the Immortal Sect selection, he would be no different from those bloodthirsty people in the 10 absolute hell. He won just like that? Isn't that way too easy? That Grade 7 Earth Immortal was careless. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost the initiative. If you say that this person is unlucky, it's true. He was surrounded by Lifeng and the others and encountered Princess Scarlet Rainbow. However, if you want to say that he's lucky, it's true as well. To think that he would encounter one of the few remaining Grade 7 Earth Immortals in the valley. He only obtained dozens of coiling dragon badges. He's still far from 1,800. As time passed, the rough candidates were already decided, and there were not many variables. Therefore, many cultivators focused their attention on Suzimo. They wanted to see how much longer this Grade 6 Earth Immortal could last. Soft, Heaven Abyss did not say much, and merely said a single word. However, Heaven Immortal White Sea and the others understood what he meant. He was referring to being soft-hearted. This person was not tough, decisive, or ruthless enough. In the mortal world, this was naturally a good quality. However, in the cultivation world, it was easy for unnecessary trouble to arise if one was soft-hearted. Yang Ruoxu shook his head. Not really. He leaves a way out and doesn't kill everyone. At the very least, he won't sow too many grudges with others or make strong foes. Heaven Immortal Green Peak said, "Let's continue watching. As time passes, it will become increasingly difficult for this lad to obtain coiling dragon badges." The remaining Grade 7 Earth Immortals are decreasing. He will definitely have to face Grade 8 or even Grade 9 Earth Immortals. Suddenly, young Ruaksu asked, "Who is this lad?" Everyone was at a loss. Some cultivators asked around, but no one knew his name. At that moment, everyone in the coiling Dragon Mountain range had yet to realize what sort of a person the seemingly sickly young man they threw into the valley was. Before long, everyone's impression of this young man would be completely overturned. Chapter 2114, 2114 Mysterious Letter. 2114 Mysterious Letter. Solar Luna County, Sangyu City. After coming here to investigate the murder of the 13 execution guards, Prince Yuan Zui did not leave. Instead, he rested temporarily in Sangyu City. Although he was also residing in the residence of a prince at the moment, the difference was stark compared to his residence in Green Cloud City. There was nothing he could do about that. Ever since he met that person more than 2,000 years ago, his fate had begun to change. To be precise, he had fallen from the clouds to the bottom. According to the normal trajectory, if he obtained the Jade Talisman, he would have a chance to obtain a taboo Mystic Classic. If he cultivated the Mystic Classic, he would definitely be able to advance to the Perfected One realm and become a Perfected Immortal. At that time, his status among the many princes and princesses would rise once more, second only to the heir of King Jin and Zither Immortal Meng Yao. With the taboo Mystic Classic, his combat strength would increase exponentially, and he might even become famous in the Nine Firmament in the future. However, everything was ruined. Ruined in the hands of a cultivator from the lower worlds named Su Zimo. He lost Green Cloud County, the adoration of his father, a clone, his former status, and almost everything he once had. In the dark hall, Prince Yuan's was sat alone with a grim expression that was even darker than the surrounding light. All these years, he did not dare to stop. Once he calmed down, he would fall into endless pain and hatred. Unknowingly, he would recall the power and status he once possessed and the cultivator of the lower worlds that he hated to the core. For more than 2,000 years, Prince Yuanzhua had not given up on searching for Su Zimo. However, what he could not understand was that Su Zimo seemed to have vanished into thin air without a trace. Even with Feng Santian's cultivation back then, he paid an extremely high price to escape from the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Su Zimo had just entered the Earth Immortal Realm. How could he leave the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom? Prince Yuanzhua had a feeling that Su Zimo was in the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom and had not left. However, if he was still in the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, where had he been hiding for the past 2,000 years? The execution guards were everywhere in the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, and there was a bounty on his life in the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. How could he have hidden for more than 2,000 years? Right then, hurried and flustered footsteps sounded from outside the hall. "Why, Your Highness?" An execution guard rushed in hurriedly. "What is it?" Prince Yuanzhua frowned slightly. The execution guard raised a letter in his hands. "Someone handed this letter to me and asked me to pass it to you so that you can open it personally." "Who was it?" Prince Yuanzhua asked. "I am not sure." The execution guard stammered. "You're not sure?" Prince Yuanzhua's gaze turned cold. The execution guard shuddered in fear and explained hurriedly, "For some reason, I felt my consciousness blur for a moment. Immediately after, this letter appeared in my hands right on the heels of that. Thereafter, a voice sounded in my mind, asking me to hand the letter to Your Highness and have you open it personally." When the execution guard spoke about this matter, his expression was still bewildered and lost. "Right from the beginning, I didn't see anyone. I asked a few more questions, but there was no response." "That's all?" Prince Yuanzhua asked with a frown. "Ah." The execution guard seemed to have thought of something and continued hurriedly. "The voice even said that Your Highness will definitely be interested in the contents of the letter." "Oh." Prince Yuanzhua sneered internally. "Hand it over. Let's see who's being mysterious and what's in the letter." The execution guard held the letter with both hands and handed it over respectfully. Prince Yuanzhua received the letter, and was about to tear off the seal when his heart skipped a beat. He handed it back to the execution guard in front of him and said indifferently, "Help me open it, but don't read the contents." The execution guard's heart turned cold. Naturally, he could tell that Prince Yuanzhua was worried that there would be danger lurking in the sealed letter, and that was why he wanted him to give it a try. Although he could tell Prince Yuanzhua's intentions, he did not dare to resist. He could only grit his teeth and wipe away the seal before withdrawing a page of paper from within. Nothing happened throughout the entire process. The execution guard broke out in cold sweat and heaved a sigh of relief. Prince Yuanzhua was emotionless as he took the letter and opened it. He merely glanced at it casually and his expression changed. The execution guard stole a glance. Prince Yuanzhua stared at the letter in his hands with a changing expression. It was unknown what was written on the letter. The execution guard could vaguely see that there seemed to be a portrait drawn on the back of the letter. However, most of it was covered by Prince Yuanzhua's palm and could not be seen clearly. A moment later, Prince Yuanzhua said slowly, "Get Commander Lone Star to meet me." After a brief pause, he continued, "As soon as possible." Understood. The execution guard turned to leave hurriedly. Before long, the commander of the Heaven Execution Guards, Lone Star, arrived and entered the hall hurriedly, asking in a deep voice, "Your Highness, what happened?" "Take a look." Prince Yuanzhua handed the letter to Lone Star. Lone Star took a look and his expression changed as well as he exclaimed, "Su Zimo! He has already left the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom and is taking part in the Immortal Sect selection in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range? Who wrote this letter? Is the source reliable?" Lone Star asked hurriedly. "I don't know who wrote it." Prince Yuanzhua frowned deeply and shook his head. There's no way to determine if the news is reliable. However, the contents of the letter seem real, and there are even many details that match it. The letter said that Su Zimo knows a transformation technique that can change his appearance for a long time. That's the reason why he was able to hide in the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom for more than 2,000 years. And now, Su Zimo has transformed into a sickly young man and is taking part in the Immortal Sect selection. Behind the letter is a portrait of this young man. Although the drawing is ordinary, his attire, physique, countenance, and facial features have been drawn. If you see the real person, you'll definitely be able to recognize him. Just as Prince Yuanzhua was discussing, the letter in Lone Star's hands suddenly burned without warning. The two of them hurriedly tried to extinguish the flames on the letter, but to no avail. In the blink of an eye, the letter turned into ashes and dissipated in midair without a trace. This, Prince Yuanzhua and Lone Star exchanged glances. Both could tell of the other's fear. The methods of the person who wrote the letter were unfathomable and far surpassed the two of them. Suddenly, the hall went silent. A long time later, Lone Star asked, "What do you think, Your Highness?" Prince Yuanzhua clenched his fists slightly and said in a deep voice, "I'd rather believe it than not. Since I've obtained this news, I've got to check things out at Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. If Su Zimo truly manages to join the 4 Immortal Sects after the Immortal Sect selection ends, it'll be difficult to deal with him then." Lone Star nodded as well. "Even if the news is wrong, we'll just make a wasted trip at most without any losses." However, Coiling Dragon Mountain Range is no longer under the jurisdiction of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Even if we appear, it won't be easy to deal with him. "Yes?" Prince Yuanzhua pondered for a moment. "Go down and gather the execution guards first. I'll leave after sending a message. The Immortal Sect selection is about to end. Let's move immediately and not delay." Chapter 2115, 2115 Change in Situation. 2115 Change in Situation. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. The Immortal Sect selection was still ongoing, and as time passed by, the number of cultivators remaining in the valley decreased. Unexpectedly, the Grade 6 Earth Immortal who should have been eliminated soon did not leave. On the contrary, the sickly young man seemed to have suddenly become lively and energetic when he arrived in the valley. He ran around without resting at all. On the first day he entered the valley, that person escaped from the encirclement of Lai Feng and the others. Furthermore, he managed to escape from the pursuit of Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Thereafter, he defeated a Grade 7 Earth Immortal and obtained dozens of Coiling Dragon badges. On the third day, that person encountered another Grade 7 Earth Immortal, and his methods were still simple. He made use of his movement technique speed to catch the other party off guard and obtained more than 10 Coiling Dragon badges. In the following period of time, when the young man encountered Grade 8 or 9 Earth Immortals, he turned to flee without hesitation. In this valley, even Princess Scarlet Rainbow could not catch up to him, let alone others. They could only watch him leave each time. If he encountered a lone Grade 7 Earth Immortal, the young man would take the initiative to fight and would always win without any exceptions. However, on the 15th day, the situation gradually changed. There were still more than 10 days left, and the Immortal Sect selection was about to end. As for the cultivators in the valley, there were only slightly more than 500 left, and most of them were eliminated. Among the remaining 500-odd people, almost all of them were Grade 8 or 9 Earth Immortals. As for Suzimo, he had not encountered a single Grade 7 Earth Immortal for more than 4 days. Right now, he had more than 300 Coiling Dragon badges in his storage bag and was quite a distance away from 1,800. If I'm not wrong, there shouldn't be much changes in the number of Coiling Dragon badges he has anymore. It's way too difficult. A spectating cultivator said, that person's movement technique is so strong and his methods are not weak. He can even kill above his level, but he only obtained slightly more than 300 Coiling Dragon badges. Another person pouted. The Immortal Sect selection is held once every 100 years, and only 100 people are selected at a time. What do you think that means? It means that on average, there's only one Earth Immortal in Divine Firmament mainland who gets to join the 4 Immortal Sects every year. How difficult is that? It's even harder than ascending the heavens. High in the skies, clouds surged and immortal chi was ethereal. Yang Ruoxu shook his head. This can't continue. If he wants to obtain enough Coiling Dragon badges, he has to fight against Grade 8 Earth Immortals. There were not many Grade 7 Earth Immortals left in the valley. Furthermore, Grade 7 Earth Immortals did not have many Coiling Dragon badges to begin with. Even if Suzimo searched for all the remaining Grade 7 Earth Immortals and snatched their Coiling Dragon badges, it would be difficult for him to gather 1,800. Grade 8 Earth Immortal, difficult. Heaven Abyss said slowly. Defeating a Grade 8 Earth Immortal was a difference of 2 minor realms, and the difficulty was doubled. Furthermore, which of the Grade 8 Earth Immortals in the valley who could last till now were not strong with many trump cards? Even in a fight of the same cultivation realm, victory was unpredictable, let alone 2 minor cultivation realms above. Suddenly, Heaven Immortal Green Peak said, "This lad's movement technique is not bad. He's quite suitable to cultivate in Imperial Wind Temple." What's the use of being suitable? Heaven Immortal White Sea chuckled. If that lad only has slightly more than 300 Coiling Dragon badges, we can't break the rules no matter how suitable he is. MMM? Right then, Yang Ruoxu exclaimed softly and suddenly said, "That lad has encountered a Grade 8 Earth Immortal. In the past 10 days, he has encountered countless Grade 8 and 9 Earth Immortals. At most, he would just turn and flee. What's so special about that?" Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan in disapproval. "He's not fleeing," Heaven Abyss said in a deep voice. Heaven Immortal White Sea and the others focused their gazes. In the valley, the sickly young man was in a standoff with a middle-aged man in yellow robes. However, he did not escape, as though he was prepared to attack. Seems like this lad has also realized the problem. Now, he wants to challenge a Grade 8 Earth Immortal to obtain enough Coiling Dragon badges, Yang Ruoxu said. Heaven Immortal Green Peak frowned. This middle-aged man's name is Xiao Yun and he's extremely strong. In a previous battle, he suppressed another Grade 9 Earth Immortal. Yes, there should be more than 800 Coiling Dragon badges in Xiao Yun's storage bag. Heaven Immortal White Sea said, "It's naturally easy for that lad to escape with his movement technique. However, there's almost no chance for him to win. In the valley, Xiaoyun looked at Su Zimo, who was not far away, with a mocking expression and chuckled. We've met before, and you turned to run. Why aren't you running this time round? The previous time they met, Su Zimo changed directions and sped the entire way without any intention of fighting. Xiaoyun chased with all his might and almost vomited blood, but he could not catch up. This time round, when he saw Su Zimo again, he had no intention of chasing. I'm not leaving this time round. I'm prepared to snatch your coiling dragon badges. Su Zimo shook his head gently and said frankly, without hiding his intentions. Haha. Xiaoyun burst into laughter and asked in disbelief, You? A grade 6 Earth Immortal? It was truly not because he underestimated Su Zimo. The fact that he could hold out till now with his level 8 Earth Essence Realm cultivation and even obtain more than 800 coiling dragon badges was proof of his strength. In fact, Xiaoyun even had the combat strength to kill opponents above his level. But now, a grade 6 Earth Immortal, a cultivator 2 cultivation realms beneath him, declared that he wanted to snatch his coiling dragon badges. To him, this was the greatest joke in the world. Swoosh! Without a second word, Su Zimo moved and arrived before Xiaoyun in the blink of an eye. Raising his palm, he conjured the Great Chaos Essence Palm and crushed down on Xiaoyun's head. In the previous battles, Su Zimo had barely used any secret skills or offensive skills. He merely made use of his movement technique's speed to catch his opponents off guard. That was his only combat method. But now, the moment Su Zimo attacked, he used the Great Chaos Essence Palm. Although Xiaoyun was smiling, he was actually on high alert and was paying attention to Su Zimo's every move. It was definitely not a fluke that he was able to survive till now. Su Zimo's movement technique was so fast that even he was wary and would naturally not be careless. The moment Su Zimo moved, Xiaoyun swiped his storage bag and summoned a gigantic shield, raising it high. Bang! Su Zimo's Great Chaos Essence Palm struck the shield heavily with a dull thud. Good lord! Xiaoyun shuddered and gasped. Although he was prepared, his blood chi fluctuated and his arm went numb from Su Zimo's palm strike. At the same time, he was secretly delighted. His shield was unusual and could be used for both offense and defense. There were countless spikes on the surface of the shield. If it was slapped on the body, a large piece of flesh could be torn off. Su Zimo's palm had exerted such a ferocious power on the shield. This young man's palm was probably pierced and mangled by now. Xiaoyun blocked the palm strike and took the opportunity to take a glance, but he was slightly stunned. Su Zimo's palm was fair as jade and did not seem injured at all. When he looked at the shield in his hands again, there was a palm-shaped dent that flattened all the spikes in the area. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.